Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around the virtual water coolers. We talk about our absolute favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, a little bit of television, some other good stuff. And I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, the crap fest that is 2020, the heavens cracked open and a little goodness poured down in the form of one Mr. Scott Movie Mance is here with us here today. Scott, how you doing, brother?
I'm hanging in there, my friend. John, great to see you. Thanks for having me on the John Campea Show. And yes, we have a lot to talk about, don't we?
we have a ton of stuff to talk about here. But listen, you have been staying really busy. I mean, I even in the midst of all this pandemic crap, I can't get on social media without seeing you interviewing the cast of this movie and interviewing the cast of that movie and moderating this big panel. And I'm seeing you on your TV appearances. And you finally did something I told you to do ages ago. You finally launched, you really got your YouTube channel going. Just tell everybody about what you've been doing for the last little bit and a little bit about your channel too.
Well, let me start with the YouTube channel. And yes, you definitely told me, I would say like maybe 6 years ago when I first met you, that I should start my own YouTube page. But, I was really busy at the time. I had a full-time job and I was doing a lot of stuff on the side. So leave it to a pandemic to give you the time to finally get around to doing what you always wanted to do. So I started my own YouTube channel. It's just called Scott Mance. My first name's Scott, last name Mance with a TZ. And I've been posting film content. I have a series called Rank and File, where I rank all the films in a series from worst to best. Of course, that's my opinion, but I've ranked Star Trek, Star Wars, Mission Impossible, Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, the Bourne movies, Quentin Tarantino's films. I also have a series called the Movie Mance Double Feature, where I take two films and I put them together and I explain why they would make the perfect double feature. And of course, I did start reviewing movies, and I just now, last night anyway, posted my review for Tenet, where I drove to Vegas, just like you did for New Mutants, to see the film.
Yes.
And I did it carefully. I took every precaution. But yes, so my YouTube page is Scott Mance. Everyone watching, everyone listening, please check out my YouTube page, subscribe, and check out my videos. I hope you like my videos, something I've been meaning to do for a long, long time. And yet, John, you definitely told me a long time ago. I finally did it, and it's been so much fun and so rewarding. But yes, so as far as the other stuff, KTLA Channel 5 has continued to use me even during the pandemic. I've been using the Zoom or the Skype to chime in on movie news and movie reviews and also junkets. And look, I'm not doing any in-theater Q&As right now because most of the theaters are closed, but a lot of these videos, a lot of these Q&As have transferred to virtual Zoom Q&As, right. And even some drive-in Zoom.
Yeah, that's right, which has been crazy.
So, yeah, that was crazy. The movie The Rental, directed by Dave Franco, right. I had the honor of moderating the very first ever Zoom Q&A for a drive-in premiere in movie history at the Vineland Drive-In Theater for The Rental, Dave Franco's movie, which is on demand right now. Check it out. But, the YouTube channel is something I really am enjoying. Finally, recording and posting my own film content. And so far, it's off to a great start. So again, my YouTube page is Scott Mance. Please check it out, subscribe, and check out my videos, and I hope you like them.
And I'm really glad you had time to join us here today, because we've been wanting to do this for a while. So it's really good to have you on here. And listen, guys, as Scott referenced, we do have a lot of things that we need to talk about here today. Now, before we get to our main topics, which we will cover in just a second, there is a little bit of an off the top here about something that dropped this morning. Now, clearly, one of the most exciting things in our geek sphere the last while is Mandalorian. I mean, I loved Mandalorian. Not every episode was perfect, but you know what? For a first live action Star Wars series, I had a fabulous time with it. Of course, it shocked us all by getting the highest possible honor at the Emmys by being nominated for Best Dramatic Series. We all know that Mandalorian Season 2 is coming really soon. But now we know officially when soon. Mandalorian Season 2, it has been officially made, public by Disney+. Mandalorian Season 2 goes online on October 30th. The tweet put out by Star Wars' official Twitter account says, "This is the day. New episodes," by the way, notice the S in there, episodes. New episodes, plural, streaming on October 30th on Disney Plus Mandalorian. And this time, because they were keeping Baby Yoda a big secret last time around, this time, Baby Yoda is in the official banner and poster, which, of course, this is the reason why 75% of the people who watch this damn show are watching it at all. Scott, couple things. Let me start off by asking you this. I don't think you and I have ever had a conversation about Mandalorian. Just in general, what are your feelings on The Mandalorian, and do you have a lot of anticipation for this new season?
Absolutely. And John, I'm glad that this is the first topic we're talking about, because I loved The Mandalorian Season 1. I mean, I know it was only 8 episodes, but if you're going to do a series based on a feature film series like Star Wars, they did it the right way. Because the whole Baby Yoda arc of the series, it wasn't like every episode was about that. I mean, there were like 2 or 3 standalone episodes of The Mandalorian that really didn't deal at all with Baby Yoda. They were just standalone episodes about Mando, and I love that. Like, that is how you do a series. Not every episode has to be part of this season-long mythology. And I just felt like the look of Mandalorian, the feel of it, it felt like a Western, but it still felt like Star Wars. Jon Favreau did a superb job of branching Star Wars off into a series, making something different that still felt like Star Wars. And it was a mature series. It wasn't too kiddie like the Star Wars prequels were. And it didn't play it safe like the sequel trilogy did. It took chances. It took the great chances. And I felt like The Mandalorian was the best thing to happen to Star Wars since The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, and a lot of people feel the same way. But now, here is an interesting thing. Let's get to this little part here that was in that tweet that mentions new episodes drop on October 30th. It raises an interesting debate and question that a lot of people have had since that first series. Now, when the first Mandalorian Season 1 was coming out, a lot of people wondered, are they going to go the Netflix route and drop the entire season at once? Are they going to go a different route that some of the other networks do and go episode by episode? They obviously went episode by episode. Now they're saying episodes drop on October 30th. I think the likely scenario here is that they're going to do what Hulu has done in the past and what Amazon has done sometimes, which is take a couple of episodes and drop, like Hulu would notoriously drop the first 3 episodes on one day, and then they would go week to week. So I think that's probably what's going to happen. I think we're probably going to get like the first 2 episodes or something on October 30th. I don't think they mean they're going to drop the entire season all at once. And Rob, I wanted to get your take on this debate, because to me, while I am a binger, I love sitting down and binges. I've been right now, I don't know if you've even heard of the show. Me and my wife have been like barreling through this show called Kim's Convenience. I just recently went through the original, The Last Airbender animated series. I just went through the entire thing. I'm a binger, but to me, if I'm the network, week by week releases is the by far smarter thing to do, because this was my example. When they dropped, say, the first season of Punisher on Netflix, everybody talked about it. And then 4 days later, nobody was talking about it anymore because it was done. With Mandalorian Season 1, we were talking Mandalorian every single day for months because every week was a new thing, and it built up the momentum and the buzz. And then suddenly people who weren't watching it, like I've got friends of mine who weren't watching it, but after 3.5 weeks of everybody talking about Baby Yoda, finally they decided to jump on and start watching it. So you ride this wave of momentum. So Rob, let me ask you this. 2 questions. Number 1, by saying episodes on October 30th, do you think that means nothing? Do you think it maybe means they drop a couple of episodes at once, or do you think that it means they're going to drop the whole season like Netflix? Number 2, what do you think Disney Plus should do that way? Should they go episodic with something like Mandalorian, or do you think they should go the other rate and try it with a binge? Can you hear me? Are you still there? Can you hear me? Rob, can you hear me? I don't think Rob. Scott, can you hear me?
Oh, you were talking Rob. I thought you had another guest on.
I am so sorry. It's muscle memory. I'm just so into, thank God I didn't, call my wife by my ex-girlfriend's name or something. Sorry. I'm so used to saying Rob. Okay. You caught me on it. Scott, what do you think they're going to do here?
I think you hit the nail on the head, John. I think they're going to drop the first 2 episodes. Now, I'm a binger too. I binged season 3 of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I binged Dead to Me. I like to binge shows too, but there's a bigger benefit for Disney Plus to do what they did last season by having a new episode each week, because you're right. It keeps the conversation going. Like, why put it all out there all at once, and you have this big boost on social media and conversation about Mandalorian, and then that's it? Why not keep it going for a couple months of steady conversation, and then it starts to taper off? Or maybe if people really want to binge it, maybe they'll wait until it's all up there, and then they'll watch it all at once. But I actually like the fact, it's like the good old days of television when you just had to wait week to week to watch a new episode of a show. So as much as I love binging, I like it the old-fashioned way. I like having something to look forward to. So I hope that they don't drop it all at once.
Yeah, and you know what? My wife and I have the exact same feeling. We like having another show that we get to look forward to. We have our weekly ritual now, like every week when, whether it was Sunday or Tuesdays, we like to look forward to that. So that's interesting. Question for you guys is, what do you think about this? We now have an October 30th release date. That means we're going to get some teasers dropping here pretty fast. What do you think about what will they do? Will they drop it all at once? And what should they do? Should they drop it all at once, or should they do what they're doing going week by week? Jump into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down and out of the way, let's move into our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them by going anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get into main topic number 1, shall we? And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Jay Master, who writes, "Hey, John. In a new interview Robert Downey Jr. had with a Smartless podcast via comicbook.com, he was asked what his potential future of returning to the MCU, then Robert following the question with one simple answer. That's all done. That's all done, said Robert Downey Jr. Interesting that he would say that. Meaning that his portrayal of the character of Tony Stark / Iron Man is over. Given the fact that his character sacrifices in the final battle of Avengers Endgame with the Infinity Gauntlet to save the entire universe, what are your thoughts on Robert Downey Jr. confirming that his overall deal with the MCU is done? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And listen, for those of you who aren't like 100% clear on what it is he's referring to, yes, Robert Downey Jr. just to do this podcast, he was asked specifically what is his status with his deal with the MCU and all that kind of stuff. And here's what was said. Sorry, Marvel fans, this comes to us from comicbook.com. Robert Downey Jr. is once again confirming that he is done with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Robert Downey Jr. was making an appearance on the Smartless podcast hosted by Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes, and Will Arnett, which is quite a lineup of people, where he said in no uncertain terms that that's all done about his MCU obligations. That's all done. When asked about how he's balancing family and Marvel movie time after Iron Man's big death in Avengers Endgame. All right. So let's look at this for a second. Right around the time of Endgame, Robert Downey Jr. got on the Joe Rogan podcast and also said, yep, I'm done, which is, of course, what he was supposed to say. Now, in this new thing, he's saying, yeah, that's all done. But comicbook.com and others do point out that he was specifically referring to his obligations to Marvel and the MCU. That's done. If you guys remember correctly, if you go back a number of years, there was a time when Robert Downey Jr.'s deal with Marvel was coming up. This is going back years ago. And the big question was all around, well, is he going to re-up? And he says, well, whatever happens, but my contract is coming to an end. I'm done. And then he did the movie with Robert Duvall that he produced called The Judge. And The Judge flopped hard. I personally liked the movie, but it flopped hard. Suddenly, there's a new deal signed between Robert Downey Jr. and Marvel. Now, am I saying it is a direct cause and effect? Not necessarily, but I kind of am, but not necessarily. Fast forward now, he's done Iron Man Forever. He's one of the biggest stars in the world. What happens now? Well, he does Dolittle. That flops hard. Look, I've said this in no uncertain terms before, and I will say it again. It doesn't matter what Robert Downey Jr. says right now. It does not matter. I am telling, and it doesn't matter what Chris Evans says right now either, Scott. I am telling you and the world right now, Robert Downey Jr. will be back in some way, shape, or form in the MCU. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, maybe not in 3 years. But he, Chris Evans, they will be back. Maybe for a one shot, maybe permanently, I don't know. But they will be back. And I don't care what they say now, just like I didn't care what Robert Downey Jr. was saying back when that original contract negotiation stuff was going on. It doesn't matter. He will be back. So to me, this is a non-issue. But Scott, you have a lot more experience than I do with people like Robert Downey Jr. and whatnot. You heard what Robert Downey Jr. said. Do you think he's actually done and we have seen the last of Robert Downey Jr. in an MCU movie or maybe not?
John, I want to answer your question directly, and then I have a really funny story for you. So to answer your question directly, all you need to do to really ponder whether or not Downey is really done is if you go to IMDb and you go to Robert Downey Jr.'s page on IMDb. Do that right now while we're doing this. And you scroll down to his upcoming credits. It says Black Widow rumored cameo. Now, Black Widow obviously takes place in the past when Tony Stark was still alive, and so was Black Widow because they both died in Avengers Endgame. So there is a chance that even though Downey's saying my deal is done, that he did in fact film a cameo appearance in Black Widow. It's just a rumor, and I did hear the rumor elsewhere, but when I was prepping for your show this morning and I went to Downey's page on IMDb and there it is, IMDb is pretty good with stuff like this. They're IMDb. So I do think that there's something to maybe we'll see sort of a very short appearance like we did of Tony Stark at the end of The Incredible Hulk back in 2008. I think it's a very strong possibility, especially because of the time frame of Black Widow, that we have not seen the last of Tony Stark in a new feature film. Now, the funny story is this, John. So back in 2017, 3 long years ago, I was in New York for the junket for Spider-Man Homecoming, which was basically an Iron Man film in addition to being a Spider-Man film. So I was there for 2 reasons. I was there because I was moderating the press conference, and I was also doing junket interviews for Access Hollywood. So I moderated the press conference when it was like there must have been 10 people on that panel. It was such a thrill because I'm such a big Spider-Man fan. And the press conference is on YouTube. You can check it out for Spider-Man Homecoming. So in between the press conference and my junket interviews, I wanted to change my clothes. So I didn't wear the same thing during the junket. So I didn't have a whole lot of time to change. So the press conference was on one floor and the junket was on another floor. So when I took the elevator up to the floor where the junket was, no one else was in the elevator with me. I did a real quick change of my shirt, but I had to, take off my jacket and my shirt and, loosen my pants a little bit. And then I'm standing there without my shirt on and the elevator stops and I froze and I'm like, oh shit. The elevator opens. Robert Downey Jr. walks in and sees me standing there, literally caught with my pants down. And he laughs at me because, I've interviewed him a bunch of times. He knows me. He says, "This is the best thing I've seen all day." He was laughing so hard. And I said, "I'm so sorry." He goes, "No, thank you for this." Like, he really took a lot of fun in the circumstance of it all. And I have a great story about it. But then, I'm putting my shirt back on. I said, "Let me ask you a question. What's going on with Iron Man 4? And he said, shook his head, "No Iron Man 4. He said, "I'm doing Homecoming. I'm doing the next 2 Avengers movies. And that's it. That's it." Like, he was like, "That's it." I know this was back in 2017. So yeah, you're right. Doolittle didn't do well. Doolittle did little at the box office. So it's very possible that never say never again, right? That's what the Sean Connery's James Bond movie was. So I don't think we've seen the last of Tony Stark, and I think we're going to see him a lot sooner than most people are expecting to, because I think that we will see him in a cameo in Black Widow, and I would love to see Iron Man 4. I don't think that's going to happen. I think maybe having a prominent role like he's had in his movies, the Avengers movies, Spider-Man Homecoming. Yeah, maybe, Captain America Civil War. Maybe that's done. But we have not seen the last of Iron Man as Tony Stark with Robert Downey Jr.
Well, we live in a world where Ben Affleck is coming back as Batman. So I think it's safe to say, like you're saying, anything is possible at this point. Question is for you guys. Where does this leave you? Does this not change your position at all? Clearly, it hasn't changed mine. Do you think we have indeed seen the last of Tony Stark being played by Robert Downey Jr.? Or do you feel like me and probably Scott here that, no, we'll see him back again someday, just maybe not immediately or maybe sooner than we think? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's now move on to our second main topic today. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Ryan Trabacco, who writes, "Hey, John, I just saw from Deadline that AMC Theaters announced that their first California market to open up per Governor Gavin Newsom's reopening guidelines will include San Diego. No more 4-hour Nevada trips. How excited are you? Because I know I am. Thanks." All right. Thank you so much. And yes, for those of you who know, I just recently made a 3.5 to 4 hour drive down to Las Vegas so I could go see New Mutants. And it was a surprisingly good experience for me. Now, I put my videos up. You can find it on my YouTube channel, but I documented like everything in there. I was really pleasantly shocked at how safe they made that place. I felt much safer in there, like I said in the video, than I did going into a grocery store. I mean, they did a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful job. But I was not excited about the idea of having to drive for 3.5, 4 hours again to go see another movie in Tenet. Fortunately for me, San Diego is only about an hour and a half drive away. And now they are opening that theaters down there. This comes to us from The Wrap, who writes, San Diego County, which is currently in the second level of reopening, can reopen theaters with 25% of maximum capacity. Counties that reach the third level of reopening can raise that capacity limit to 50%. San Francisco County is also currently cleared for the second stage of reopening, though county health officials and theater chains have yet to disclose any details on the theaters, on when the theaters may open. Now, of course, on top of all of that, we see that AMC Theaters now saying that as of this weekend, 70% of their theaters are going to be open. It is ironic that they're using this picture of the AMC Burbank 16 because that ain't one of them. That ain't going to be one of them that opens this weekend. By the way, guys, you see that round part of the building there with all the Onward posters on it? You see that there? That's the storage closet that we used to do AMC Movie Talk in. Just a little bit of history for you. That's that round part of the building. That was our converted storage closet. A little bit of stuff there. Look, from a completely selfish point of view, I'm thrilled that Ann and I have already bought our tickets for Tenet on Saturday. And that I am facing an 1.5-hour drive instead of a 3.5 to 4 hour drive. That's already a big win for us right there. The big question for me is going to be when I get down, and it does happen to be an AMC that we're going to as well down in San Diego. When we get down there, am I going to be faced with the same great scenario that I saw in Vegas? Because you guys remember when I was heading out to Vegas, I said, look, people were asking me, am I also going to make plans to go see other movies? I said, whoa, one thing at a time. I want to get down there the first time. Because if I get to Vegas, I don't care if I drove 3.5 to 4 hours. If I get there and I see that there aren't strict guidelines in place and I see everybody acting stupid and running around in the theater without masks on and all this kind of stuff, and I feel like they've crowded the theaters or anything like that, I said, not only am I not going to plan to go back again, I ain't going in. I don't care if I drove 3.5 to 4 hours. I'm just simply not going to go in. But I got there. My experience was great. Again, I documented it and you can find that online. So the first thing I'm going to be paying attention to when I get down to San Diego is, are they going to do the same excellent job that they did in Las Vegas? Because again, to me, it was safer than a grocery store. Like there were more people in the produce aisle of the grocery store I went to this week than there were in the theater when I watched New Mutants. And that's not necessarily a commentary on New Mutants. I'm just saying. So that's going to be the first big question. Look, in the world of the pandemic, we are talking specifically about the little box that we talk about here, which is the world of movies and entertainment. This is obviously, movie theaters being closed is a first world problem. Obviously it is. But that is the stuff that we are here to talk about. But I mean, if they can do it right and do it well, and they can show and prove with data that this can be a safe experience to get out of the house, go and enjoy yourself, get the movies going again, then I think it's a great thing. And if it backfires, then shut it back down. But we'll see how it goes. Scott, you've had a chance to see. Notice I didn't say Rob. You're seeing that now as of this coming weekend, we're going to have 70% of AMC theaters open, probably very reflective of the other major chains as well. We've got one opening up in California. This is going to be the first experiment. Are you thinking you might go down another one? And how do you think this is going to go? Do you think they're going to be able to follow these strict kinds of procedures we've seen in other places? How do you think this is going to turn out?
Well, you said something really interesting in the sense that one thing at a time. I think that's one thing at a time. As you move forward with anything during the pandemic, it has to be one thing at a time. You go to a grocery store, you go in, is it safe? You proceed. You go to Starbucks, and everything you do outside of your home, exercise extreme caution and take every step to stay safe. So I too drove to Vegas to see Tenet, and I was really on the fence about it because I really felt like, what the hell? This is not fair. This isn't right. That the only way we can see Tenet is in a theater when it's still not 100% safe to do so. Is it really right for the filmmakers and the studio and the theater owners to put moviegoers in harm's way? But I haven't been to a movie in 6 months, and I was really on the fence about going because, like, driving 4 hours to see a movie, this is ridiculous. But first of all, I was up for an adventure. I just needed to get out of Dodge, have a change of scenery, and I kept checking in with the publicist handling the screening in Tenet. It was a press screening. It was not a public screening, and just wanted to make sure that there weren't going to be a lot of people in the theater. And in the end, there were only 10 people in the IMAX theater, and we were all really, really spread out. So I took every precaution. I did not do this recklessly. I posted a video on my YouTube page, Scott Mance, about my trip to Vegas, and I exercised caution. I wore my mask. I washed my hands. I kept my distance. I implore everyone going to the movies to stay safe. I did not do this irresponsibly, and I did not post my videos without very, very strong warnings. Be very, very careful. People are going to go to see Tenet in theaters that are open, whether I tell them to or not. So if I can use my platform to tell people, hey, if you go, be careful, wear your mask, wash your hands, keep your distance. And yeah, so I went to Vegas to see Tenet, and I'm glad I did because I had a great adventure. The movie is really confusing, but I really enjoyed the experience, and I can't wait to see it again. Same experience I had 10 years ago with Inception. So if I go to another theater to see Tenet, I'm going to treat it like a different experience. Is it safe to proceed? If I go to see Tenet, if I was going to drive to San Diego, I'm not going to just because I don't have time. But if I was going to do that, I would make the drive in my car. I would get out and I would put my mask on and I would sort of get the lay of the land. And if I saw too many people, if I saw a big crowd, I would not go in because it was not safe to do so. The screening that I went to in Vegas, it was safe to proceed. And before I even saw you this morning to be on your show, my reaction was, wow, I felt safer in that theater than I did going to the grocery store every week and a half to get groceries. And that is why I proceeded. Do I still
What do you think about this, the 25% capacity limit? Do you think that's a good restriction?
But 25%, if they spread it out and there's 6 feet or more between everybody, then 25% sounds about right. But if they start getting greedy and they start bunching people in, that's where I draw the line, and that's where people really need to use their best judgment. Now, the easiest thing would be that they just don't open theaters at all, and they just wait till there's a vaccine. But then you're talking at least like 5 or 6 months before movie theaters can open again. And, they're trying to, open things, restaurants are seating outdoors instead of indoors. Okay, like in California, things opened too fast and we paid the price. We had a big spike in COVID cases. So now they're trying a much more careful rollout. I drive down, whether I'm in LA or wherever I am, I see people sitting outside, spaced very far apart. Okay, that's fair. I mean, if you're going to proceed, just what we should have been doing all along, everybody should have been wearing a mask. If everybody wore a mask and kept their distance, we never would have had a spike in cases in the first place. So people are going to go see Tenet in their theaters. Just be smart and be careful and protect yourself and protect everyone else by taking that first step and wearing a mask. And then just get the lay of the land and make sure that you feel safe moving forward. Be responsible. I know you were responsible going to Vegas to see New Mutants, and I took a lot of responsibility when I went to see Tenet. And I proceeded with caution, and I only kept moving forward as long as I felt safe to do so.
Question here for you guys is, what do you think about the fact that we're starting to see 70% of these theaters are going to be open across the country? Obviously not everywhere, not where I live, but hey, in San Diego, what are your thoughts on this? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, let's get on to our third and final main topic today. And our third and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Eric Gayson, who writes, "Hey, John and crew. I was perusing my news feed. Not enough people use the word perusing anymore. I was perusing my news feeds and saw that Star Wars officially released some concept images of Yoda, who is 200 years younger, for the upcoming High Republic stories. Does this confirm that he's going to be a central figure in the upcoming movies? It says he's already a member of the Jedi Council at this time. What do you think of the images? All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, listen, we've known for a little bit now that they are going in the direction of High Republic, which is going to be set a few hundred years before the events of Star Wars: A New Hope. So we've known that for a bit. They also said in those initial announcements that Yoda was going to be around in that time. It might be a little bit more than just around, because they're saying that the focus of these stories, at least in the first novels that are coming out, are going to be around a certain group of young Jedis who are kind of being overseen by a little bit younger, as you can see the design here, of a Master Yoda, who again is, he's an older Jedi, but he's 200 years younger than we're used to seeing him. My only concern, first of all, I think the design looks great. I like this design. I think it looks quite good. I like seeing it, but listen, I don't like the prequels, but even people who like the prequels hate the Yoda lightsaber fights. I don't like the prequels. I love the Yoda lightsaber fights in the prequels. Okay, give me that all day. But so I'd love to see some badass Yoda action, absolutely. But here's my problem. My problem, as many of you know, is what I want Star Wars to do is move forward in their storytelling. Why has everything lately been about, let's do young Han Solo? And remember, they were going to do the younger Boba Fett story. And now let's get younger Yoda. And now, my analogy for this, Scott, that I've always made is that if you want to know if you live in a big city or a small town, simply do this. When you walk out your front door, how long does it take you to bump into somebody you know? The longer it takes you to bump into somebody you know, that's the bigger the town, the bigger the city. If you walk out your door and you're instantly running into 5 people you know, it's probably a smaller town. And I feel like Star Wars for the past number of years has just been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking their universe. And one of the things why I love Mandalorian, it's like different characters, different worlds, different stories to tell within the context of the Star Wars universe we know. So I gotta say, I don't love the idea. Well, I love Yoda. I don't love the idea of him being too much of a focus. But when I read the article, maybe he's not that much of a focus. I'm not sure. Scott, let me ask you this. What do you think of the designs that we're seeing there of this younger Yoda? And from what you read, do you think they're implying that he's going to be kind of one of the centerpieces of it? Or do you think they'll keep him a little bit more on the outside and really focus on the new characters? What do you think they're going to do?
Well, I think after the success of The Mandalorian, I think that they're going to have him. But by the way, I love the designs. But I think that, listen, Yoda is such an iconic classic character. I think that that's an entry point for people, for especially Star Wars fans, to get excited about. So of course they're gonna promote that. But I don't think he's going to be a central character in the sense that they're making a separate Disney Plus series on young Obi-Wan Kenobi. I agree with you. I don't like the prequels either. But when Yoda started doing his acrobatic choreography with his lightsaber battle, I was like, wow, that was really cool. That actually, too bad the whole movie couldn't have been like that. But I don't think that Yoda is going to be a central character. I think he's going to be recurring, so to speak.
Oh, I like, in television terms, a recurring character. I like that. Question for you guys is, first of all, what do you think of the designs? I like the designs. I do. I just don't want them to use them too much. Do you think they're going to use them a lot? Do you think they'll keep them a little bit more on the outside? What do you think they should do? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all the main topics down and out of the way, we're going to move on to your live comments and questions. But Scott Mance is a busy man. He's got things he's got to get off and do. So, Scott, thank you so much for spending part of your morning here with us. It's always good to have you around. Always good to talk to you. In the meantime, though, where can people follow you and your adventures online?
Okay, John, it is great to see you. And thank you so much for having me on your show. You're such a pro at this. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Movie Mance. So please hit me up, especially on Twitter. I'm very active and I engage everybody. Hit me up on Twitter and please let me know what you thought of my appearance on the John Campea Show today, but also please let me know what you think of my YouTube page. My YouTube page is just Scott Mance, and I have tons of great content on there already. A lot more to come. Check out my YouTube page. Please subscribe and spread the word. And thank you so much for your support. Thanks, John.
All right. Thanks for being here, brother. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care, my friend.
You too.
All right, everybody, the one and the only Mr. Scott Mance. So good to have him here and good to see him again. But for now, let's keep on. By the way, yeah, do go check him out and let him know what you thought about his appearance on the show today. All right, guys, let's now move over and start taking your live questions. We're going to get things. And by the way, I'm going to let you guys know, I'm going to try something today. Here is... For those of you who've been watching the show, you know that, especially lately, I've had to keep the John Campea Show very strictly to 2 hours. I've had to be very strict about keeping it to 2 hours because YouTube has had this really weird thing it's been doing. And the weird thing that YouTube has been doing is when you do, or at least when I do, a live stream, different from pre-recorded uploaded videos, but when I do a live stream, if I go over 2 hours, then it cuts off a part of the show. For example, if the show goes 2 hours on the nose, the full 2 hours will be there after the show is done. But if I go 2 hours and 5 minutes, then when people go to watch the show after, the first 5 minutes will be missing. If my show goes 2 hours and 17 minutes, the first 17 minutes are missing. And now eventually they reappear, but sometimes it would take like a half hour for them to appear. Sometimes it would take a day for them to appear and everybody would be missing the first part of the show. But I've noticed the last couple of days, I've gone a couple of minutes over and YouTube has handled it. YouTube has had the full show there. So if we need to go a few minutes over 2 o'clock today or over 2 hours today, we're going to do it. And we're going to see if YouTube handles it or not. So with that down, what I'm saying is we're going to get through all the questions today. So let's get into it. By the way, if you have a live comment or question you want to put into the show here, you can do it simply by using the tip link that's in the top of the description of this video, or you can enter it manually right here. That's streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show if it's within reason, and you'll be supporting the channel at the same time. All right, with that down, let's get into your live questions, guys. We'll get things started off here with JR, who writes, on a lighter note, Greatest Showman recently joined Disney Plus. I know, I'm excited to sit down and watch it again. And Les Mis recently joined Netflix, so that's great. Have you seen Shrek the Musical on Netflix? It's fantastic. I think you and Ann would love it. A high recommendation for anybody who hasn't seen it. I have not even heard of Shrek the Musical. I'm not sure. No, I haven't seen it, but I'm a big fan of Shrek, so I'll probably check that out. But listen, guys, seriously, if you have not seen Greatest Showman, I really think you need to check it out. Now, if you're not a fan of any music in movies at all, it may not be for you. I thought this movie was so fantastic. Hugh Jackman is so good in it. So good in it. Zac Efron is fantastic in it. Zendaya is fantastic in it. The whole cast is great. Go and check it out. So thanks for giving us the update, JR. All right. Rogue Mammoth writes, John, thanks for enlightening me about there being a theater mode for my smartwatch. I've been feeling like an a-hole for a year and a half every time I've worn it to the movies and need to move my hand. So for those of you who don't remember, I just recently, I don't know why I'm not wearing it right now. I forgot to put it back on after I got out of the shower. I just recently bought my first smartwatch and I love it. I don't know what I've done without it before. I just recently got it and I absolutely love it. But when I was in the screening for New Mutants, when I went out to Las Vegas for the movie, I realized, because I hate it when people pull out their phones and that you're trying to focus on the movie and all of a sudden you see this light source pop up somewhere. Totally ignorant. And I realized that as I'm in the movie theater, even if I'm just moving my hand to lift my bag of Reese's Pieces or something, my watch detects movement and it turns on the watch face, creating this glow. And I feel like an idiot every time. But then I realized there is a night mode you can put on. You can activate a night mode where it won't turn on every time you move your hand. You have to manually turn on your watch. unless you deactivate it. And so for those of you who have smartwatches and have struggled through the humiliation like I have of having my watch pop its light on, just look for the night mode on your watch. Most of them should have it, and it should solve your problem. I'm glad we're able to solve a practical problem for you, Rogue Mammoth. All right, Mischievous Gremlin writes, hey, John, don't know if you've seen it yet, but CBS All Access just released a teaser trailer for their remake of The Stand that will drop in December. The remake will star James Marsden, Amber Heard, Whoopi Goldberg. I did see the teaser. And while everybody I know, including one Robert Meyer Burnett, was really excited about it, I gotta tell you, I didn't really care. I mean, I didn't think it was bad. But Zevia, sponsor me, you sons of bitches. I didn't think it was bad, but I also didn't see anything to get all excited about. It was just a short tease. Like I think it was only about 30 seconds. At least the one, maybe they've released a longer one. The one I saw was only about 30 seconds, and it was fine. It was fine. I am interested in seeing The Stand, but I didn't think it was all that great. But a lot of you guys seem to absolutely love it. So I'm curious about it, and I'll look forward to watching a longer preview of it whenever they make that available. But I do kind of like what CBS All Access has been doing, except they haven't put out crap, then that's the problem. All right, Geekpool writes, greetings from the Great White North. Only Canadians will understand that. My question is, how do movies use CGI to create fictional buildings? For example, the Bank Casino in Ocean's 13, OCP in RoboCop 2014, or Stark Tower in Avengers. I'm always fascinated with movie magic. Love the show. Well, obviously, I can't go through a big tutorial right now, but it's a process called compositing. And compositing is something that you do in photo editing, and it's also something you can do in visual effects. Basically this, and I'm way oversimplifying it, but this is the basic idea. Compositing is when you take something, like you take your base image, or video in this case, and then you composite or place something over top of that and into it, right? You can do it in Photoshop. You just create different layers, right? For those of you who've used Photoshop or other sorts of photo editing, whether it's Affinity Photo or any type of photo editing stuff, you know you can create different layers. And whatever's on the higher layer will show over top of what's under the lower layer. So basically what you do is they will create in CGI a building. In some cases, now again, I'm acknowledging I'm oversimplifying this, but they will create a building, a 3D model of a building. And then what they will do is they will match lighting of, they'll take your source shot, like the actual video footage or picture of the cityscape. So you got your natural that. So then they build this 3D model of a standalone building. They'll match the lighting that's in the original photo or footage. They'll try to match the coloring and all that kind of stuff. And then what they will do is they will composite that onto the original footage. Now, you also got to do some rotoscoping and things like that. And I spent too much time being a roto monkey. But yeah, that's basically, it's a simple process called compositing. Build the model and then integrate it into the footage over top of it. Then if you need to, you can take that base image again and put it over top of your building image again, and then cut out a part of it so that it looks like your building is in front of some things in your picture, but behind other things in your picture. Again, it's just building a composite. So the best thing to do is go onto YouTube, look up compositing. Look up compositing, and you should be able to find some interesting videos on it. Anyway, I know that was a terrible short description, but hopefully you found that a little bit useful there, Geekpool. Okay, next up, Scott Brown writes, first, my thoughts go out to Chadwick Boseman's family and friends. He was an amazing person. The news was devastating, but I couldn't help but be reminded of talents like Brandon Lee, Heath Ledger, River Phoenix, Paul Walker, huge talents gone way too soon. It's true, and it is a history of not only Hollywood, but every industry. Professional sports have athletes that have gone way too soon. The movie industry, we have actors and directors and performers who've just gone way too soon. And unfortunately, Chadwick Boseman joins that list. And we lament the great art from him that we're never going to get. And we celebrate the great art from him that we got. And anyway, that was well put, Scott. All right, next up. Brandon writes, "Hey, John, did you see that Elizabeth Olsen got bullied off of social media? We talked a little bit about this yesterday. Got bullied off of social media because she didn't make a post about Bozeman. I hate this. People handle and mourn loss in their own ways, and we should respect that, especially since Olsen was close to Bozeman." No, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's one of the big weaknesses of social media, particularly on Twitter, but others as well, where everybody is an expert on what other people should do and say. Everybody's an expert on what other people should do. And it's no longer, oh, you wrote something on Twitter and you didn't quite write it the right way, so we're all going to jump on you. Now it's, oh, you didn't even write anything on Twitter or Instagram or social media. You didn't even write anything. We're going to jump on you for not doing what we thought you should have done. It's ignorant. It's idiotic. It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. For somebody to say to somebody else, by the way, it's idiots who have never met Chadwick Boseman saying to somebody who did know Chadwick Boseman and feels the loss a lot more than you do, telling them what they should be doing. It is the height of ignorance. Absolute ignorance. And it's infuriating to see stuff like that. And look, if you are one of those people who like kind of ganged up on Elizabeth Olsen, I'm not trying to offend you. Fuck that. Yes, I am. Be fucking offended because you're an idiot. Anyway, let's move on. Casey the Sledge Storyteller writes, hey, John, subjectivity, I think of some people can read War and Peace and come away thinking it's a simple adventure story. Others can read the ingredients on a chewing gum wrapper and unlock the secrets of the universe. We all have a W and P and gum wrapper story. It's true. It's true. I mean, that really is it. Like, you know, Scott brought up, we've been talking a lot recently about Tenet, and I still haven't seen it. I'm seeing Tenet on Saturday. That's when me and Ann bought tickets to go and watch it in San Diego. I haven't seen it yet, but there's been a big topic of discussion. Some people saying it's quite confusing, and some people saying it shouldn't be seen. And it's a part of the subjectivity as well. We can, some people look at Clerks 2 as just a funny, raunchy, juvenile kind of comedy, right? But I saw Clerks 2, and it was incredibly profound to me. I saw a lot of deeper meaning because specifically it was speaking to a circumstance I happened to be in my life at the time. And I found it incredibly moving and smart and profound. But it strikes us all in different ways. So it's a very good example, Casey. All right. Okay, let's see here. Derek Woodron writes, "Good morning, John and Rob. I drove an hour to the only theater I can find in Washington that's open to see Tenet. Felt great for Tenet to be my first movie back. Not sure how they could be open, but they followed the safety protocols and the movie was mind-blowing." Again, to me, a movie theater is just like any other place. Whether it's a grocery store, whether it's a coffee shop, whether it's a doctor's office. I mean, a movie theater is just like any other indoor place. The question is that whatever kind of indoor place you're going to, are they following certain procedures to ensure that we feel comfortable and are to the best of their ability being kept safe? Now, listen, I've said this a million times. I will say it again. You cannot guarantee anything. Like, as soon as you walk out your front door, there is a possibility you could catch COVID-19. The question is not about guarantees. It's about, are there reasonable precautions being taken to limit the possibility that we catch something? And I think if everybody did the smart things to limit the chances of exposure, we as a country, as a world, would be in a much better place right now than we are. So I'm not looking for guarantees. I'm just looking for places to say, look, we are going to take strong measures. We're going to follow strong protocols to make sure that we limit the possibility of you catching something when you're in our building. That's all I can ask. That is all I can ask. And if a grocery store is doing a good job of that, which my local grocery store does, then I'll feel comfortable going into the grocery store. If a movie theater in San Diego does a good job of doing that, then I will feel comfortable going to a movie theater in San Diego. And if they don't, then I won't go back. It's just that simple. Now, I'm not saying everybody should do that, but that's just how I feel comfortable with. But that's just me. All right. Glad you're able to have a good time in there, Derek. Derek also writes, oh, yes. Saw the Dune teaser. Oh, nice. And it got me pumped. By the way, Tenet was so tense the whole movie. I can't wait to watch it again. Can't wait to hear your review of it eventually. Yeah, so hopefully Saturday, hopefully you will get my quick out of the theater thoughts, just my quick 1 minute thoughts when I come out of the theater, and then maybe we'll talk more in depth about it on Monday's show, because probably by then Robert will have seen it too. So we'll see. But one of the big things I am looking forward to, dare I say, almost as much as seeing Tenet, I'm looking forward to seeing that Dune teaser. Not since The Phantom Menace have I gone to a movie theater where my primary goal was to see a trailer, but that might be my primary goal. Don't get me wrong. I'm very excited to see Tenet. I am. But I also might be even slightly more motivated just to go see that Dune teaser, but we'll see. All right, next up, Kyle Schroeder writes, John, one thing I never understood is why the film I Am Sam with Sean Penn, that also had Catwoman. Why am I freezing on Catwoman's Michelle Pfeiffer? Anyway, that also had Michelle Pfeiffer and Dakota Fanning, if I'm not mistaken. I think Dakota Fanning was in that too, as his daughter. Anyway, I never understood why the film I Am Sam with Sean Penn got the hate from critics that it did. I understand not liking it, but they eviscerated it. Can you help me understand why? Because I always thought it was a pretty good movie. First things first, Kyle. The critics did not eviscerate it. Some critics did. Some critics just didn't like it, and some critics actually liked it. If I'm not mistaken, I think it had like a 30-something% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is very low, but remember, that also means 1 out of every 3 critics actually liked the movie. And a lot of them just didn't like it. I remember a lot of people feeling it was just kind of convoluted, also very cliched. Like it just fell way too heavy on cliches and very surface ideas when it was trying to be deeper and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, there were some critics who just didn't like it. They hated it. Some of them did. But that's going to be the truth of any movie you see. Why didn't that person like it? Because they didn't. You know, why did 30% of the critics or more like the movie? Well, because they did. They didn't find it convoluted. They didn't find it was forced. They didn't find it was too surface and cliched. They didn't find it that way, so they enjoyed it. And some didn't. So just be clear. The critics, as if it was just one organism, didn't eviscerate it. There were some who did. But there were some who liked it, some who just didn't like it. But yeah, I'll be honest with you, I didn't particularly like the movie either. I kind of agree more with the criticisms of it. I thought Sean Penn was great in it. I always think Michelle Pfeiffer is great. Sean Penn, I thought was definitely great. I think sometimes some people gave Sean Penn crap for just doing in his performance what was in the script sometimes. Like, you can't hold what is in the script against the performer. All you can ask is that the performer performs their role as best they can. And I actually thought Sean Penn was quite good in it. Anyway, that's one that hasn't been brought up in a while, I Am Sam. Anyway, Never Lose Your Nerd writes, R.I.P. to the great Chadwick Boseman. Selfishly, I do hope they keep the Black Panther going. I wanted him all along to be with Storm when they reintroduced the X-Men characters. What do you think of that possibility? Oh, I think there's a very good possibility that they do carry on the T'Challa character. You guys know my personal opinion. I believe that this character of T'Challa is way too important culturally. What this character came to represent and came to symbolize for hundreds of millions of people is way too important to throw away into the trash. I think you take this work that Chadwick Boseman, this character that Chadwick Boseman helped bring to life, and you carry on. You carry on that legacy. I think is supremely disrespectful to the work that Chadwick Boseman did to suggest that they throw this character with this character that came to symbolize and represent such huge things to so many people. Now we go, okay, now we just don't do T'Challa anymore. I just don't think that's smart. I don't think that's smart. I think the intelligent thing, I think the respectful thing, I think the honoring thing to do is to carry on that legacy with this character, T'Challa. I think that's the important thing to do. Now, there are some who disagree. Robert Meyer Burnett disagrees with me. We had a good discussion about this the other day, and he makes some very, very good points. But that's how I personally see it. As far as the Storm thing goes, I don't want Storm. I mean, I used to, but I don't want Storm anymore. And the reason I don't want Storm anymore is because he's already found the love of his life. You know, in the MCU, which is not the comic books and the MCU are two different things. In the MCU, he has the love of his life in Nakia, played by the future ex-Mrs. Campea, Lupita Nyong'o. Oh my God, it's unfair how much that genetic being was given at birth. All that talent, all that beauty, all that grace. It's sick. It's unfair, I tell you. It is unfair that sometimes the universe is that disbalanced. But he's found the love of his life. And so, like everybody else, when you start talking Black Panther, I'm like, oh, someday wouldn't it be great if they could have him and Storm together? That great romance that was in the comics. But once I saw Black Panther, I'm like, nope, this is the love of his life. This is who it's got to be. But that's just kind of my take on it. We'll see. All right. Anyway, next up, N. Hund writes, hey, John and Robert. Robert's not here, obviously, today. First tip here. Oh, thank you so much, N. Hund. I appreciate the support, dude. Love the channel. I'm curious what your all-time favorite fight scene in a movie is. Mine is the staircase fight in 2006 Casino Royale. And my all-time favorite movie, by the way, also hashtag Bozeman Forever. You know, I think you might have accidentally sent that in again because I think you asked that same question a few days ago, and I did answer it. But I will address it again here quickly. To me, when talking about favorite fight scene, I'm not necessarily you're not asking me what's the best fight scene, the best choreography, you know, the best moves and stuff like that. In comic books, my all-time favorite action combat scene, because there's so much story and so much narrative-driven action in it, is the airport scene in Civil War. But my all-time favorite fight scene, and again, I may change my mind if I think about it more, but Rowdy Roddy Piper in They Live, in that alley. I love it. There's something about that scene that is so great that it's probably my favorite fight scene. Then I go back to a lot of the classic Shokasagi fights in the classic 80s ninja movies and things like that. But yeah, anyway, that's just one I think about a lot. Thanks a lot for that, N. Hunt. All right, next up, Captain Brad Brickley writes, nice name. Saw Tenet last night. I'm a little bit envious at the drive-in. I think I know what happened, but I need to watch it again on a better screen. It is funny how many people are saying they saw Tenet and instantly feel like they have to see it again to truly understand it. We liked it and been thinking it over since our drive home. We had fun and enjoyed some normal activity, hoping theaters open soon. Yeah, listen, my wife and I have been to the drive-in a couple of times. It has been a great option. Honestly, it has been a fantastic option. We have had a really good time going, whether we're going to see like really old movies like Apollo 13, which we did and had a great time, or relatively recent movies like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which we went to go see at the drive-in as well. Such a good time. And, you know, I think even once the theaters open again, I think my wife and I are maybe once every couple of months, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, we're going to try to get out to the drive-in again because it's just a different experience. I mean, yes, the picture is better in a movie theater. Yes, the sound is better in a movie theater. All that is true. But there's just something really fun about hanging out in your car, you know, and I don't know. We just had a good time doing it. So I hope we get to do it more moving forward. Let's see. Next up. Where are we? There it is. Dylan Valenti writes, So Tenet is playing in IMAX 70 millimeter at 3 theaters in America. There is one 4 hours away. I saw the movie and I loved it. Should I make the 4-hour drive to see the movie in IMAX 70 millimeter? I feel like the format is stinging, and this may be my last chance. Well, I mean, whether or not you should go, for me, I would not. If I had the option to go and see Tenet at a theater 1 hour away, but I could drive an additional 3 hours to see it in IMAX 70 millimeter, I'm probably going to the theater an hour away. I say that, but I haven't seen the movie yet. See, you have. If you loved it that much, like if you saw Tenet already, which you did, and you loved it that much, and if I had seen it and I loved it that much, I might consider making the extra drive to go see it in a new format, in an even bigger and better format. I might consider doing it, but it all depends on how much I already liked it. As somebody who hasn't seen it, I wouldn't make the extra effort. But if I had seen it and I did love it, yeah, I may consider doing that. So it's up to you, Dylan. It all depends on how much did you truly love it. If you loved it that much, go for it. All right, next up, James Argento writes, FYI, for those that forgot, Chadwick's last performance as T'Challa will be in the show What If. Oh yeah, interesting. The episode is What If T'Challa Became Star-Lord. That's right, because they weren't able to get everybody, but they were able to get most of the actual actors from the MCU to do the voices for the Marvel What If series coming up. I don't know if the series is going to be any good or not. It certainly looks interesting. But yeah, I forgot about that. That would be one more thing. I mean, we won't get to see Chadwick doing anything, but we'll get to hear his voice again. Thanks for reminding me of that, James. That's a good thing to bring up. All right. The John Campea Show is life writes. Who ruled Wakanda in the dusted 5 years? Surely it wasn't leaderless. I'm sure that there was a thing they may have explored in the sequel. Endgame made it seem like Okoye was the de facto leader when she was meeting with Natasha and the others. I didn't get that impression. I just think she is somebody who fought with the Avengers and was working with the Avengers. I never got the impression that she was the de facto leader. As a matter of fact, if you follow what we know about Wakanda from the movies and what their culture is and how they do certain things, Okoye couldn't become leader. It would have to be one of the eligible leaders of one of the tribes. It could have been Nakia, although unless we don't know if Nakia had dusted or not, but Nakia could have been because she's one of the leaders of the river tribe. It could have very well been. I can't remember. Did M'Baku dust in Infinity War? I don't think he did. I think we specifically saw him not dust. So probably it would make most sense that M'Baku was probably leading Wakanda at that time, since he was the leader of the Jabari tribe and he was this close to becoming the rightful king by defeating T'Challa in hand-to-hand combat. Came that close, and he would have been the rightful king. So I don't think, according to what we know from the movies about Wakandan culture, I don't think Okoye qualifies. I don't think she can because she's part of the Dora Milaje, right? So my guess, and it's only a guess, my guess is M'Baku was probably leading Wakanda during the time that T'Challa was gone. Once T'Challa returns from the snap, according to Wakandan culture, he's instantly the king again because he never died and he never submitted. So if that's the case, then he's still king. But M'Baku is a friend of his now, so I don't think he would challenge. I mean, I'm just guessing here. All right, next up. Robert Lee writes, what do you think of the idea that the ruler of Wakanda and the protector of Wakanda be two separate people? It has happened before, and it would make sense since being a good ruler is a full-time job, and so is saving the world. Remember, the job of Black Panther is not to save the world. The job of Black Panther is to protect Wakanda. And Wakanda is part of the world, so if you got to save the world, you got to save the world. Listen, I was talking myself the other day. Remember, even in Black Panther, the movie, we were at a period of time where the king of Wakanda and the person holding the mantle of Black Panther were two different people. When we come into Civil War, T'Chaka is the king of Wakanda, but he had already passed on the mantle of Black Panther to his son, T'Challa. So we had, for a brief window in Civil War in the MCU, a period where the king, the monarch, the ruling monarch, and Black Panther were actually two separate individuals. So it's possible. You know, it's possible they could return to that again. But, I mean, that was also an extreme circumstance. T'Chaka had gotten to a certain age that he maybe couldn't fulfill the role of Black Panther anymore, so he passed on that mantle while remaining king. But I don't know. I don't know all the details of it, but yes, they have done it before where we've had two individuals fulfilling the two roles of king and of protector. They could do it again. They could do it again. All right, Mike Thompson writes, how powerful is it that Chadwick Boseman continued to work and completed 6 movies knowing that he was on borrowed time? But to throw the entire T'Challa character away just because he's not around anymore almost seems like a slap in the face to all the work he did to bring this culturally significant character to life. I agree. If, God forbid, anything happened to you, I would hope that the rest of your team would finish your documentary. I would hope so too, as a matter of fact. If Henry Cavill were to pass, the Superman character would absolutely continue on. To me, it just doesn't seem right to scrap a person's work just because they aren't around to personally continue it. Mike, listen, there are two very valid ways of looking at it. The way you are expressing is completely the side that I'm on, 100%. You do not honor somebody by throwing away their work and discontinuing their work. That's not how you do it. Listen, I said this before, I will say it again. The Academy Award winning costume designer for Black Panther is Ruth Carter. She won the Academy Award. She won the Academy Award for costume design. She created the look of the people of Wakanda. And she won an Academy Award for it. The dresses, the designs, the clothes these regal things you'd see T'Challa and his mother, the outfits that whether it was Killmonger, inside and outside of Wakanda, she designed all of that. Those cool outfits that Shuri was wearing, Ruth Carter designed all of it. She brought it to life. Here's the truth. Had, God forbid, Ruth Carter had passed away, nobody would be saying, you can't make another Black Panther movie now, because she's the one who made those designs. She's the one who created those things. It would be disrespectful to her to have other costume designs, having somebody else doing the costume design. That would be disrespectful to her and her memory. No, it wouldn't. We all know that wouldn't be the case. We all know that the show would go on and that they would try to honor what she did. They would carry on with her basic aesthetic and her look that she had built the foundation for about what the look of Wakandan culture was. And a new designer, a gifted, talented designer would come in and carry on her work. And nobody would have a problem with that. Nobody would say that would be disrespectful. Nobody would suggest that you can't make Wakanda in any movie anymore. But here's the difference. Most people don't know Ruth Carter, so they just don't care. People know Chadwick Boseman. So since he's more famous, we ascribe, like, there's more importance to him because he's more famous. Look, if you acknowledge that it wouldn't be disrespectful to carry on with Black Panther and Wakanda and all that kind of stuff if Ruth Carter had passed away, then you're admitting that it's not disrespectful to carry on with the character of T'Challa and have somebody come to help carry on that legacy that Chadwick Boseman established. If you were saying that, no, it wouldn't be disrespectful to carry on the look of Wakanda without Ruth Carter, then you're admitting it's not disrespectful to carry on the legacy of this character of T'Challa without Chadwick Boseman, who worked so hard to establish this legacy. Of course it needs to be carried on. This character is way too important to so many people and so is inspirational to so many people. You carry it on. Chadwick Boseman put in a good number of years of his life to make sure we got this character a certain way to be inspirational to a lot of people. You're going to take that away now? I don't think so. At least I don't think they should. I don't think they should. And again, it goes back, there's many, many examples, but the one I like to go back to was when Richard Harris, who was playing the culturally beloved character of Dumbledore in the Harry Potter movies, when Richard Harris passed away, Richard Harris, who did such a great job bringing Dumbledore to life and making that character a hero to a lot of people, did Warner Brothers say we can't make Harry Potter movies anymore once Richard Harris passed away? Saying it would be disrespectful to have another actor come in and pick up and carry on for Richard Harris. Nobody said that. Nobody said that. The character of Dumbledore is beloved and important to a lot of people, and it's an important character to the story. And so what they did was they got, I believe his name is Michael Gambon, to come in and to carry on for Richard Harris, to continue bringing that character that Richard Harris brought to life, Dumbledore, to people, and continue bringing that character to people. And did anybody complain about that? No. Did anybody say they shouldn't have made more Harry Potter movies? No. Did anybody say you should just write out Dumbledore? Yeah, he's in the books, but in the movies, you should write Dumbledore out. Because if it's not Richard Harris playing the character, nobody should play it. It's disrespectful to Richard Harris. Nobody said that. Nobody said that. And of course they shouldn't have said that. Because that makes no sense. You take what Richard Harris did, you honor it by carrying it on. And that's how you honor it. But it's very much a hot button topic. And everybody's going to feel very strongly one way or the other. But and like I said, Rob's on another side of this than me. Like Rob feels they should write that T'Challa died. And he makes some very, very good, legitimate arguments for that. But I happen to fall on the side that you're on, Mike. I really, really do. Anyway, Tim Berg Satterfield writes, "Hey, John, what if for Black Panther 2, they actually make it an origin story showing us how a young T'Challa took up the mantle of Black Panther from his father, King T'Challa? We never got to see how he became Black Panther on film. Damson Idris as a young T'Challa. I'll be honest with you, off the top of my head, I'm not sure who that is. No, because I don't think T'Challa took over as a young boy. I think when we meet T'Challa in Civil War, I don't get the feeling he had been Black Panther for a long time. Plus, I'm not a big fan of prequels in the first... That's just me. I'm just not a big fan of prequels in the first place. I would much rather them keep it in continuity with the rest of the MCU and move the story forward. Personally, I think they move the story forward with T'Challa. But, yeah, I don't think there's any need to go backwards. And again, I personally didn't get the sense that like he took over the Black Panther mantle when he was 14 or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? But maybe I'm wrong about that. Anyway, thanks for the question, Tim. All right, Gabriel Reed writes, best actor without an Oscar, Hugh Jackman or Willem Dafoe? It's so hard, but I pull slightly more towards Hugh Jackman. Oh, the answer is Ralph Fiennes. Ralph Fiennes is the answer to that question. Ralph Fiennes, I believe, and I'm a huge Hugh Jackman fan. I think that dude is like the best overall entertainer in the world. Like, there is nobody sing, dance, act. There is nobody else who is as high in all three levels as him. You get some people who are better singers than Hugh Jackman. You get people who are better dancers than Hugh Jackman. You'll find some people who are better actors than Hugh Jackman. But I don't think you're going to find anybody who is as high on all three things as Hugh. I think he is the single greatest entertainer in the world. I really do. I think Hugh Jackman is the single greatest entertainer in the world. But when it comes to just acting, Ralph Fiennes, man. Joseph Fiennes' brother. Speaking of Harry Potter, Lord Voldemort himself. I really wholeheartedly believe he is the best actor in the world not to have an Oscar on his mantle. Dafoe is awesome. Hugh Jackman is awesome. They have many nominations between them, as does Ralph Fiennes, but I still gotta go Ralph Fiennes, man. I gotta go Ralph Fiennes. All right, Sam Atkins writes, Hey, John. Finally saw Tenet yesterday and spent the rest of the night thinking about it and watching videos on it. It's crazy. Was wondering if you plan to drive to see it or are you going to wait for it? I recommend seeing it in a theater. Thanks. I have already got my tickets. The earliest show I could get was Saturday. So I think I could have gotten a Friday show, but I couldn't have gotten down to San Diego on Friday because of schedule. But so I'm going to go see it on Saturday. So yes, Ann and I, but thankfully it's not a 3.5 to 4 hour drive. It's an 1.5 hour drive because now we get to go to San Diego. Hopefully it'll be as good of an experience as the Las Vegas one was. If it's not, we're just going to turn around and go back home. But I'm looking forward to seeing it. And I'm a little bit jealous that you've seen it already, Sam. All right. Is here. Joe's gas station movie blog.fart writes, Ow, there's a pimple on my ass part 2. You guys remember I was talking about the epic trilogy of Ow, there's a pimple on my ass. Ow, there's a pimple on my ass part 2 was the best trilogy in my opinion. Part 3 had way too many plot holes and didn't live up to the legacy of the first 2. Good to know. I'll file that one away, Joe's gas station. The other black guy writes, I'm torn. I haven't been to the theaters in 6 months and they're opening soon in San Diego, just 3 hours away. But my wife and I live with my parents, who are genuinely terrified of us going. They are in their 60s and healthy and really want us to reconsider. Okay, you're in a very interesting set of circumstances. And I respect that. I do. Listen, if I was living with my older parents or whatever, I may have to reconsider a little bit. I mean, look, I either feel it's safe or it's not. But to be honest with you, if I was going to be around every day, my older parents, remember, older people are even more susceptible to this than most people. I don't know that I'd even be going to the grocery store. Like, honestly, I think I would go out for a late night walk at night when there's nobody else around, and that would be the only time I would leave the house. I don't think I would go to grocery stores. I don't think I'd do anything. So yeah, geez, man. Again, I felt very safe. My experience, and I cannot speak for anybody else's experience. I'm only speaking for my limited experience. My experience was a very positive one. I felt very safe. I felt some great precautions were being taken and I felt good about it. But everybody's context is different. And yeah, man, I would talk to your parents about it. And I might wait if I was living with my parents. I might wait. Good question though, man. It's a real tough conundrum. What do you do in a situation like that? That's a good question, man. All right, next up. Caleb writes, Hi, John and Rob. Any word on Those Who Wish Me Dead? Written and directed. That's the Taylor Sheridan one. Taylor Sheridan with Angelina Jolie, Nicholas Hoult. Supposed to release on October 20th, but no trailer, poster, nothing. Maybe HBO Max / VOD release since it's an Oscar movie. Should I be concerned? Well, I honestly... So the premise of this movie is really interesting sounding, right? It's on one hand, it sounds very simple, but in the hands of a Taylor Sheridan, who is amazing. Wind River, the one he did with Chris Pine and Jeff Bridges. Why am I freezing on the name of that one? Anyway, Wind River, that one. He's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. It's about some dude who's in witness protection and he's being hunted by some assassins in the woods and he's got a survivalist guide who's helping him survive. Anyway, the last I checked, I think IMDb, if I'm not mistaken, has it listed as no current release date. So I think, and I could be wrong, but I think they pulled it off its release date. So I currently don't think it's planning to release on October 20th. Now, whether that means they're going to push it to early 2021 or whether they take it to a VOD service, no idea. Personally, being Taylor Sheridan, it's the type of movie I want to see the way you're supposed to see movies, which is in a movie theater. So I hope they just delay it and put it out when they're ready to put it out. But I mean, in this day and age, in the pandemic, it's very possible it could go to VOD. I hope they stick to their guns and keep it in theaters. But as of right now, I don't think there's a release date for it at the moment. Anyway, good question, Caleb. But guys, keep your eyes for that one. Those who wish me dead, keep your eyes open for it. All right, Black Panther fan writes, since they weren't used before, it could be a good tribute to Chadwick for Cyan, Denzel Washington, T'Chaka's brother, as ruler, and his son, T'Shan, John David Washington, as the Black Panther, to pick up his mantle. Nakia could track them down. No, I don't like it. I mean, this is just personally I don't like it for two things. Number one, there was never any suggestion that the king had another brother in the movies. But John, in the comic books, I know, but the comic books in the MCU are two different things. In the MCU, they never mentioned that he had a brother. At all. Right? So, for them to rewrite history to do something like that, I don't like the idea of it. Doesn't mean it can't be done great. It doesn't mean it can't be done great. It can. But just the whole idea of getting rid of this inspirational and iconic symbolic character of T'Challa just doesn't sit well with me at all. I don't care what story you approach. And I don't care about who plays the roles. I don't care. Like, that's irrelevant. But no, I don't think it fits in with what they have in the MCU currently. And I don't think it's necessary. I think you carry on with T'Challa. The character is just too inspirational, too important, too legendary, in no small part because of the work of Chadwick Boseman. And I think we owe it to the legacy of Chadwick Boseman to carry it on. I think you owe it to the hundreds of millions of people who have been moved and inspired by that character as portrayed by Chadwick Boseman. I think you owe it to the world to continue that on. So that's just my thoughts on that, Black Panther fan. All right, next up, Michael Jones, who tipped $20. Thank you so much for supporting the channel on that level, Michael. Appreciate that, man. One of three. Today, the governor of North Carolina said that gyms and bowling alleys could open, but no movie theaters. He did this for two reasons. Number one, some gym studios were going to defy the order and open today anyway. Two, today the North Carolina Supreme Court, I'm guessing, heard opening arguments on a lawsuit brought against the governor by a group of bowling alley owners suing him for keeping their businesses closed. Tell AMC and Regal to call and put pressure on him, and he will cave in. I don't think so. Like the governor's mansion would if Superman was trying to get to him. Going to Virginia to see Tenet this weekend. First world problems. Thank you, John, Rob, Aaron, and Chris, when she comes back, for all that you do. Well, thank you so much for that. Now, here's the thing, though. Michael. You got to keep in mind. You cannot forget this. New Jersey is in the exact identical situation. Or is New York was in the exact same situation. New York, currently, gyms and bowling alleys can be open, but movie theaters can't. Look, I am perfectly okay if they want to say places like movie theaters, gymnasiums, bowling alleys, those all need to be closed right now. If they want to say that, I'm perfectly good with that. If they want to say, hey, you know what? Bowling alleys and gyms and movie theaters, they can be open right now. I'm totally fine if they want to say that too. What I don't understand, what makes no sense at all, is that it's okay for gyms and bowling alleys to be open, but a movie theater, which is 5 times safer than a bowling alley or a gym, especially a gym, where you got everybody walking around touching the same equipment, sweating, breathing heavy, confined space. It makes no logical sense to me that can be open, but that can't. You want to say they're both closed? I'm good. You want to say they can both be open? I'm good. But saying that can be open and that can't makes no sense to me. But calling the governor to put on pressure isn't going to change anything, because in New York and in New Jersey specifically, like Regal and AMC and other movie theaters did try to take it to court to say, hey, if you can have bowling alleys open, we should be allowed to be open, but the court ruled against them. So I don't know that trying to put legal pressure on them in North Carolina or South Carolina, I don't think that's going to make any difference, because it hasn't made any difference in other parts of the country either. But we'll see, man. We'll see. Hopefully things will start to change. Who knows? Then again, I thought everything would be back to normal. Back in March, I thought everything would be back to normal in July. I thought, by July? Are you kidding me? We'll be back. By July, we'll be fine. Look where we're at. Anyway, so let's just keep our fingers crossed, man. Thank you so much for that. And hey, man, go see your movie. I hope you have a good time. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourself, take care of the people around you while you do it, though. That's the important thing. Thanks so much for that, dude. All right, next up, Black Panther fan writes, follow up to the previous comment, Tashawn, John David Washington, who is not John David Washington, could take on the planned story arc for T'Challa, Chadwick, including Storm. The MCU has shown flexibility with comic storylines. What do you think? Again, number one, I don't think you get rid of T'Challa. T'Challa is too important, too inspirational, meant too much, too big of a legacy at this point, and was hardly used at all. And so, no. Number one, I understand John David Washington is black. That doesn't mean he's the only black actor in the world. There are a lot of black actors, great black actors in the world, who, if they wanted to take in any role, it could be any one of them. Doesn't have to be one. But again, I don't like the idea of rewriting history. There was no mention of him having a brother that wasn't already dead. There was no mention of T'Chaka having another brother. And again, I understand in the comics this, but we're not talking about the comics. We're talking about the MCU. And I feel they would be contradicting what they've already done in the MCU. So, no, personally, I don't like the idea. I think it needs to be T'Challa. T'Challa is, look, they have done too much. Chadwick Boseman did too much to give us a character that is idolized, a source of inspiration for, and important to too many tens, if not hundreds of millions of people. You don't throw that away. You don't throw that away. You carry it on. Again, if Ruth Carter passed away, what would they do? They would say, the Black Panther in this property becomes so important to so many people. Yes, Ruth Carter passed away, but we need to carry on her work. And they'll bring in another gifted, talented designer who will pick up on Ruth's aesthetics and try to carry on and honor her legacy and continue that on. That's what we would do. And I personally think that's the way you would honor her. And I think that's the way you honor Chadwick Boseman. So anyway, that's just my thoughts on that. All right, next up. Taj and Cars writes, one thing I left the first Black Panther movie wanting is a buddy cop style movie in the MCU with Shuri and this current Peter Parker. I'm dying to see those two riffing off each other while working to solve a case/mystery. Think Nice Guys or Tango and Cash. I'm in. Listen, Shuri instantly became, after 5 minutes after finishing watching Black Panther for the first time, Shuri, played by Letitia Wright, became one of my favorite characters in the MCU. I love that character. And you know what? I have never thought of a buddy movie with Peter Parker and Shuri, but Taj, sign me up. I love the idea. It sounds great to me. Make it happen. I'm totally in for that, dude. I think it's a terrific idea. Sam Shaw writes, Cineworld reopened in the UK 1 month ago, and I've been to 34 screenings so far. Films include Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Dark Knight trilogy, Empire Strikes Back, Shawshank Redemption, one of the greatest movies of all time. And that was your first time seeing it. Nice. Harry Potter 1 through 5 and all the Christopher Nolan movies. So it's so good to be back. And now finally we're getting new films in there as well. Now we're getting New Mutants and Unhinged and Tenet. And there's another movie coming called Come Play. I saw my first trailer for Come Play that played in front of New Mutants. It was the only trailer that played. The premise sounds stupid, but the trailer was actually surprisingly creepy. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet, but so now you get to, on top of all those, and that's some commitment, Sam, on top of all those great classic movies you got to see in the theater, now we got some new ones coming too that you're going to get to take advantage of. All right, James LH writes, John, with all the bad news seemingly every week, I needed to laugh. So it was good timing to receive the Blu-ray special 40th anniversary edition of one of the great comedies, Airplane. Surely you must be kidding. I'm not, and don't call me Shirley. Sometimes you need a good laugh. Listen, first of all, James, great pick. Great pick. We often will bring this up. I know a lot of you guys, it's a much older film. I get it. It's a spoof comedy, and spoof comedies today are stupid. Airplane is one of the funniest movies ever made. If you have not seen Airplane, the original Airplane, my friends, treat yourself. As Tom Hatherford would say, treat yourself and make sure you watch Airplane. Watch it with a couple of friends. It is truly even though it's super old at this point, it is truly one of the greatest comedies ever made. And I'm glad you're able to watch that, James, and have a good time with it. Let's see here. Next up, James LH also writes, John, I just watched on Prime Inside the Boys in preparation for season 2. Not long to go. I think it's just Friday. The new episodes drop. I'm so excited for The Boys season 2. I was surprised to see, unlike season 1, this season is going weekly after the first 3 episodes. Weekly versus all at once has been a topic. I prefer the weekly build-up. Now look, here's the thing. This is the interesting part. I prefer dropping all at once and binging. That's what I prefer. But I also acknowledge that while that's what I prefer, the infinitely smarter thing for them to do is to release it weekly. It keeps the conversation going. It keeps it at the front of the pop cultural conversations going on. It gives it time to build momentum week after week after week. And everybody who keeps hearing everybody talking about it for weeks, okay, fine, I'm going to go check this thing out. A lot of people checked out Mandalorian, not when it first dropped. I mean, there were a lot of people that watched it when it first dropped, but there's a lot of people who watched and enjoyed Mandalorian, not when it first came out, but by like week 4 and 5, they just heard so many people talking about it for an entire month already that they broke down and went and checked it out. It is by far the smarter thing to do. If you are Amazon and by the way, in the next couple of years, you're going to see Netflix. Netflix is already sort of experimenting with this. Look what they did with Lucifer. They didn't drop all of season 5 at once. Even though all the episodes are done, they didn't drop the entire season 5 at once. They dropped the first 8 episodes, and then later they'll drop the second 8 episodes. I think you're going to see in the coming years, even Netflix is going to start experimenting more with week by week releases. And I'm telling you, they're going to experience a big, big benefit from that. Because again, they put out Stranger Things season 3. Everybody talked about it for 72 hours. And then nobody was talking about it anymore. Because everybody already seen it. It's done. It's gone. Boom, done. And it's no longer part of the pop cultural conversation. There isn't constant buzz about it. And so there are those who didn't check it out that don't hear. It's just way smarter. I prefer it to binge, but it's way smarter for them to go week to week. All right. Let's see. 50 Shades of Geek writes, so many people are saying Shuri should take T'Challa's place because it happened in the comics. Let's not forget that in the comics, Everett Ross ruled Wakanda for a while. Shuri was a muscled giant and W'Kabi had a robot arm. The movies aren't the comics. Also, to prove your point about Killmonger being evil, he also shot and killed his girlfriend just to get to Claw and burned all of the heart-shaped herbs. The Wakandans would not make him king again. Yeah, listen, I get it. We all loved Michael B. Jordan playing Killmonger. We all loved his performance in that. He was fantastic. Dare I say, you could make an argument maybe he should have gotten an Academy Award nomination for that. But to people who go, oh, they should now make Killmonger. What are you talking about? He is a treasonous, evil, murdering villain who is never going to be, and who caused the death of a lot of Wakandans who Wakanda would never, he is no longer even eligible for the throne. He is a treasonist, period. And even Joe Robert Cole and Ryan Coogler, when writing the script, they even made sure, folks, don't be confused, even though he has a point about some of the things in his philosophy, don't be confused that he ain't straight up evil. And so near the end of the film, when he was now king of Wakanda, he's talking about, I'm going to kill all them, and I'm going to kill their children, and I'm going to kill this, and he's just killing everybody, burning their heritage and their culture he betrayed the king. I mean, all this stuff. He was a vile, murdering, treasonous traitor. And there is no way, I don't care how much we love the performance of Michael B. Jordan, there is no way it would make sense at all with any, to use the phrase from Robert Meyer Burnett, verisimilitude that Killmonger, even if they magically said he was alive again, and it is the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Fake Death Universe, so yes, they could bring him back. But that's not the problem. The problem isn't bringing him back. The moment you bring him back, all of Wakanda are executing him. They're killing him. They're going to execute him immediately. There's nothing else. He ain't becoming King of Wakanda after what he did. There's no way. So anyway, that's just kind of my thought on that. Okay, next up, Taj and Cars writes, just to clarify, I'm not saying I want to see them actually as detectives in a movie, talking about Shuri and Peter Parker. Marvel has this cool skill of theming all of their movies. So when I say think nice guys, I'm talking about energy. Those outsmarting each other and riffing. Oh no, I agree. I get it's not Detective Peter Parker and Detective Shuri. No, and the MCU does do a great job of that. They make some movies feel like 70s political thrillers. They feel like others feel like heist movies. They make others feel like straight up action movies. They make others feel like, different things. And yeah, to make something feel like a buddy cop movie, not them literally being cops, is totally within their wheelhouse. And I would love to see them do something like that with those characters. All right, Timbula the Spider Monkey writes, the question of the best fight scene came up yesterday and again today, and I had my response already in mind. Then Rob mentioned it, The Raid. For me, the greatest fight scene ever is the brother versus Mad Dog. It feels so real, and the way it ends, I love violence, but damn, yeah, The Raid, listen, The Raid is great orchestrated violence. I mean, that's really what The Raid is in its entirety. It's orchestrated violence. The fight choreography is incredible. It's some of the most heart-pounding action you can see. Again, to me, when talking about my favorite fight, it's more than just the fight choreography. But there is no denying the action, the fight choreography in both The Raid and The Raid 2 is just something really special. Like something really, really special. All right, Ryan Trabucco writes, hey, John, AMC Theaters is reopening in San Diego this Friday. Yes, they are. I'm not sure if that's a topic you covered today, but there are now movie times available. I just picked up a ticket to Tenet this Friday. No more Vegas movie going drives for you, Mr. Campea. Nope, going to try to go to San Diego. Go down there, pretend I'm at Comic-Con, do whatever. I love San Diego. I really do. I love that town. The whale's vagina. San Diego. It means the whale's vagina. I'm pretty sure that's not what it means. Anyway, points to you if you know the reference. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And it's going to be great. You know what the really cool thing is? It's halfway. Sorry, Anne's mom's place is halfway there. So we go to Anne's mom's place almost every weekend to stay for the weekend and visit. From her place, it's only a 45-minute drive to San Diego. So we're going to, probably Friday night, we're going to drive out to Corona. The city of Corona. That's about 45 minutes to an hour away. And spend the night at Anne's family's house. And then Saturday, we're going to get back in the car and make that extra little drive, another 45 minutes to an hour to get into San Diego. Looking forward to it, Ryan. Looking forward to it. I hope you have a good time. Taj and Cars writes, I watched The Firm for, Wilford Brimley, Tom Cruise. I love The Firm. I watched The Firm for the first time in decades and forgot, by the way, R.I.P. Wilford Brimley, and forgot how creepy it is. It's technically not horror, but throughout the whole movie, I was like, I'd love to see a Blumhouse rendition of this. It totally made me feel like the first act of Get Out. I don't know if I had that same feeling myself. I mean, as long as we're talking about the same movie, but it is a tense movie. There's a lot of great tension. And I believe The Firm is also a Grisham property. I mean, there's just what he was able to do with legal drama stuff is amazing. Tons and tons and tons of tension. And again, RIP to the great Wilford Brimley. So yes, please do go and check out The Firm if you've not. It's a really, really good movie. So go check that out. All right, Suthius writes, I, Suthius, at the age of 35, just discovered that Ed O'Neill is a jiu-jitsu black belt and that he trained with the Gracie family for around 30 years. Gracie sound familiar? It comes up now and then when UFC is brought up, more specifically, Royce Gracie. Yep, Royce Gracie became legendary. But here's the funny thing. Royce Gracie while he dominated UFC and is like maybe the most iconic figure, one of the fathers of mixed martial arts, him winning the first few UFC tournaments, like this little underweight guy stepping into rings. There was no weight classes at the time. So he was stepping into the ring with guys who were 280 pounds. Like he was like 130, 140 pounds, stepping into the ring with like 280 pound guys, 300 pound guys, and wrecking them with this thing that nobody had heard of, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or Jiu-Jitsu, as he would say, and just wreck them. But here's the scary thing about the Gracies. The reason Royce's father chose him to be in the UFC events wasn't because he was the best. He wasn't. He's not the best Gracie. I don't know that he's the third or even fourth best. He picked him because he was the smallest. And the patriarch of the Gracie family said, I want to show the world what Gracie Jiu-Jitsu can do. So we're going to send our smallest in there. And of course, Royce goes in there, wrecks shop, becomes one of the most iconic figures in the history of mixed martial arts. But I'm telling you, maybe the most dangerous guy ever, and the best of the Gracies by far, was Rickson Gracie. That dude was a beast. And he had other brothers as well. But it's just kind of interesting. Everybody thinks of Royce Gracie, and rightfully so. But Royce Gracie wasn't even the best in his family. I mean, that's the craziest thing about it, right? Anyway, let's see. Where are we at here? Matthew Grant writes, speaking of Squirrel Girl, if I remember correctly, I think Anna Kendrick, she was joking about, yes, you're right, Anna Kendrick was joking about wanting to play Squirrel Girl, was posting that she would love to play her. If Anna Kendrick randomly popped up in the MCU as Squirrel Girl, I'm so down. I'm probably not. It's just, to me, it's just too ridiculous. But listen, I love me Anna Kendrick. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I was looking forward to that Christmas movie she did on Disney Plus. That sucked. What was it called? Noelle? How bad was that movie? Oh my God, that movie was so bad. And I love Anna Kendrick. I do. I love her. So I'm down with just about anything. But no, Squirrel Girl in the MCU, I am not particularly down with. But hey, listen, if James Gunn can put Polka Dot Man into Suicide Squad, maybe Kevin Feige put Squirrel Girl into the MCU. All right. Chris writes, just watched the documentary Robin's Wish about Robin Williams. So well done, so sad at the same time. Robin Williams was a comedic genius, gives a lot more insight to his final years. So wish we could have him back. Definitely check it out. It was released yesterday. You know, and I don't know why, because, you know, Robin Williams was never my favorite celebrity, but other than the passing of Carrie Fisher, I have never been as emotionally moved at the loss of a celebrity than I was at the death of Robin Williams. And we were still doing AMC Movie Talk at the time. And for those of you who may have been watching, you remember the day that Robin Williams died. That was a tough one for me. I got kind of emotional talking about that. And you realize how many smiles he gave you in his lifetime, how many laughs he gave me in my lifetime, how many hours of just feeling good he gave me in my lifetime through his performances on the screen. I'd never been as moved until Carrie Fisher. That one was more because obviously I'd spent more time with Carrie Fisher on the screen. But yeah, Robin Williams was a tough one. Thanks a lot for that recommendation, Sock. All right. Oh, sorry, that was Chris. All right, Sock writes, so Sony just released another trailer for the PS5 and didn't reveal the price or release date. I'm starting to think this thing is a myth. Really, though, I want this thing already. My PS4 died just before The Last of Us 2 came out. That's rough. I know, like, I didn't understand how they did this big PS5 event a month or two ago. How do you do that and not tell people what the price of it is? Like, that's, if not the most important piece of information, then like the second most important piece of information that people are expecting. The price. What's it going to cost me to get that thing? Yeah, that Lamborghini looks great. I'd love to have it. It costs how much? Okay, that changes. The cost of it is important information. I don't know why they didn't do it then, and I'm not sure why they still haven't released that information now. It's kind of ridiculous. The Wakandan Forever writes, One of two. I just felt I had to weigh in. Rob, I love you, but I have to agree with John on this one. I feel King T'Challa is too important to not continue in the MCU. The passing of Chadwick Boseman is heartbreaking, and you would have to move mountains to find the right person to recast in the role. No one will ever take the place of Chadwick Boseman and what he brought to the character and to the fans. I just feel the best way to honor Chadwick Boseman is to continue what he gave us, even more than the awesome superpowers, futuristic technology, and cool suit. It is King T'Challa himself that means so much to people. Thank you again, John, for the show and the community for your support and for honoring Chadwick Boseman, Wakanda forever. And I agree. And listen, I want to emphasize, I don't want to jump on Rob's thought of it. I think Rob makes some really, if you go back and look at the discussion that Rob and I had about this, I think Rob raised some very valid, good points about some of the benefits of moving on from T'Challa and saying in the MCU, T'Challa died and it gives you an opportunity to do a few things. And I think Rob raised some very, very valid points. I disagree though, even though I think he raised some valid points. I disagree. I think the inspiration wasn't, the Wakandan technology, the inspiration to millions of people that made them fall in love with these movies and made them feel like they belonged as well to the fan community, wasn't the fact that he had a cool vibranium suit that you could put on any character and just say any character is Black Panther now. You can just say any character is Black Panther now. You could say, I don't know. If you wanted to, you could say Tom Holland shows up in Wakanda as Spider-Man and they make him the new Black. I mean, you could do that if you wanted to. Any character can be Black Panther. But that's not what's important. That's not what was iconic. That's not what was inspirational to millions and millions and millions of people. It was the character of T'Challa. That was the inspiration. That man, that character was the inspiration, not the vibranium suit. That's not what inspired people. That's not what made people feel included. That's not what kind of revolutionized the industry as far as what kind of movies can you make. It wasn't a vibranium suit and a name tag. It was the character. It was T'Challa, partially brought to life by Chadwick Boseman. And so you carry that on. You carry on. And so I'm agreeing with you, but again, like I do, but again, I don't want to discount the fact that people like Robert and others also have some very valid arguments to do the other thing. But that is how I feel Wakandan Forever. That's how I feel. At any rate, Michael McCann writes, big fan ever since the Man of Steel review. Thank you. So it's funny how many people started watching this as the Man of Steel review. I believe that there is more than a 30% chance that during a post-credit scene for Black Widow, we will see Natasha on Vormir, suggesting that there is a chance for her being resurrected. Thoughts? Thanks, and bring on the filthy. I would go, listen, it's not impossible, but I do not believe that the purpose for the Black Widow movie is to bring Natasha back. Of course, this is the Marvel fake death cinematic universe. They could bring her back in a moment's notice. And I'm not going to say it's impossible. But 30%, I personally feel, Michael, by the way, I noticed you tipped $20. Thank you so much for supporting this channel on that level, dude. I personally would go way lower than that. I think we're actually talking in the single digits and the low single digits. Not impossible, but I'd say 2% chance. Maybe 3. But yeah, I'll stick at 97 to 98% chance that it is not going to be any suggestion of her returning. Not that Scarlett Johansson can't return in the future. I believe, like Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, we will see her again in the future, personally. But I don't think this Black Widow movie is going to be what they use to bring up the issue. We'll see, though. We'll find out soon enough. I cannot wait to watch that movie, actually. I've gone from being very disinterested to the last trailer to really did get me more on board, so we'll see how that goes. All right, Devontae Brown writes, Hey crew, did you guys happen to read the GQ interview with John Boyega? He's getting a lot of praise for his honesty. I'm guessing we'll never see him in Star Wars again, unfortunately, but I understand why he's upset based on what he mentioned. Yeah, I did read it. And listen, first of all, the only people praising John Boyega for his honesty are people who hated those Star Wars movies. Because if they loved those Star Wars movies, they wouldn't be loving John Boyega for his honesty. They will just call it honesty when it's something that's being critical of something they already hate. I'm not saying John Boyega wasn't being honest. Don't misinterpret me. But yeah, if you find people praising him for being honest, it's basically people who hate the Star Wars movies. So anything that looks like criticism of those Star Wars movies, and listen, I've got a lot of criticism, especially of The Rise of Skywalker myself. You guys know this. But let's just get that out of the way. I did read it. Look, you guys know I'm a big John. You've heard me talk about John Boyega a lot, all the time. I'm clearly a big John Boyega. I like John Boyega very much. I think he's ridiculously talented, and I'm a big fan. Hell, he even shouted out, like back when I was still doing Jedi Council, he shouted out my show once at a press junket. How can I not be a big John Boyega fan? That said. To me, I don't know. I think I have to read it again and let it sit with me a little bit more. To me, it felt a little bit more like me. That's what it felt like a little bit to me. Like the complaints that the focus really more became about, Adam Driver's character and Daisy Ridley. Well, what do you think was going to happen? One is the main villain of the story, and the other is the new Jedi. What did you think was going to happen? Of course. So, I mean, I don't know. For those of you who didn't read it, he basically complains that his character didn't get enough focus in the movie. Now, he also complains that other characters other than Daisy and Adam Driver also didn't. The character of Rose, for example, didn't get much attention anymore after The Last Jedi. That was more of a response to the fact that a lot of people, and listen, I like The Last Jedi. I do. It has its problems. I like The Last Jedi, but if you guys have ever heard me talk about it, one of my big criticisms of the movie was that whole Finn and Rose storyline. I just thought it was a poorly written, poorly conceived storyline that I had no interest in. And if somebody who liked The Last Jedi, didn't like that stuff, then a lot of other people aren't going to like it either. And so I think they kind of felt like, well, we're going to back off the Rose thing a bit. Now, whether that was the right decision or wrong decision, I'll leave that up to the historians. But it's like the audience didn't respond well to it. That wasn't Kelly Marie Tran's fault, and that certainly wasn't John Boyega's fault. But they didn't respond well to it, and so they backed off on it a bit. All right, whatever. I don't know if that was the right move or the wrong move. Maybe they caved, whatever. It is what it is. But yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. And I'm very pro John Boyega. And maybe I'll feel differently once I sit with it a little, maybe for a few more days and read it over again. To me, it just sounded a little more sour, at least on first reading. To me, it felt a little bit more sour. Like the movie should have been more about me. And maybe I won't think that in a couple of days. Maybe I'll completely shift thinking on that in a couple of days, and I'll think completely different of it. But it is interesting, though, that I've seen a number of outlets who just constantly trash on John Boyega suddenly praising him for his honesty because he's saying something negative about Star Wars. It is what it is. But yeah, I don't know. Again, I like him. I like his work in Star Wars movies. I liked very, very little about The Rise of Skywalker, so that's a different situation, I suppose. But yeah. And again, look, it's an actor talking about their experience with the movie. It is. I don't really care one way or the other. I don't care if he says he loved it. I don't care if he says he hated it. It was his experience, not mine. And he can say whatever he wants. And again, maybe I need to just read it again and try to get more of the nuance of what he was talking about. My initial reading of it wasn't very positive. It just felt like it was talking about, these movies should have been more about me. That was the message I heard when I read the article the first time. Star Wars, these new movies should have been more about me. But maybe if I read it again, I'll sit down, because John Boyega is a very level-headed dude. He can get very, very passionate sometimes, absolutely. But I find he's a very articulate, intelligent, well thought out with his movements and his actions kind of guy. So maybe if I read it again, maybe I'll take something away a little bit different. But anyway, we'll see. All right, next up. Mischievous Gremlin writes, "Hey, John, I just want to touch on somebody, probably meant something mentioned yesterday about Chiwetel Ejiofor being the next Black Panther. I will have to remind you that Chiwetel Ejiofor has already been in the MCU in Doctor Strange's Baron Mordo. We talked about that. Actually, we did mention, if you watch the entirety of yesterday's show, we do mention that as well. Like we did say, yeah, of course, well, he's the villain in Doctor Strange. So we already did bring that up. We didn't say it initially when we were talking about him. That was just to the side. But we did say a little bit later in the show, like, don't forget, he is also already in the MCU. So don't forget that as well. All right, next up. Ryan writes, "Hey, John, I couldn't watch DC Fandom Live, so I was wondering if the Ezra Miller situation was ever brought up. No, it wasn't. They never mentioned it. I know it's something you've talked about during topics of the day, but at this point, it feels like they're just going to bury their heads in the sand and wait, rather hope for people to forget about it by the time the movie is released. Your thoughts?" Oh, no, I've talked about this a lot. That is 100% clearly Warner Brothers' strategy here. Warner Brothers, I mean, it became clear when they never addressed it at all, but Warner Brothers' strategy here is 100% clear. Let's pretend it didn't happen. Let's just stay quiet. Let's not mention it and hope that eventually everybody will forget. And they're not wrong. Eventually everybody will forget about it. And I'm okay with them doing that if, as the parent company and ultimately the ones who make the final decisions, I don't care what anybody else says, I would have been okay with, like, I wouldn't have felt good about them just saying, oh, let's not even talk about it, if it wasn't for the fact that just a short time later, they publicly fired a guy for tweets he wrote years ago. And again, I'm okay if they wanted to fire that guy for tweets that he had written 6-7 years ago. If you feel you need to fire him for that, okay. But put them both together, it is extreme hypocrisy. It's extreme hypocrisy on Warner Brothers' part. Guy this year caught on video laying hands on a woman by the throat and taking her to the ground. Perfectly fine. We're not even going to mention it. We're not even going to say, like, you know, we at Warner, Ezra's actions were not reflective of our values here at Warner Brothers. We've spoken at length with Ezra about it. He is incredibly remorseful about it, feels terrible about it, and we are going to continue to work with Ezra moving forward. And we're all going to be really committed to, you know, how we properly conduct ourselves, and we are totally against violence against women. Ezra Miller is going to be making a donation to blah blah. Hey, you know, even that, but nothing. They were just, oh, that's perfectly fine. Yeah. Dude at a nightclub, grabbing a woman, laying hands on a woman, and taking her to the ground. Perfectly cool. Nothing wrong with that. But that guy on Flash, on the Flash TV show, he tweeted something. Granted, it was really stupid ass stuff that he tweeted. Absolutely. I'm not saying it wasn't. But he tweeted something 6 years ago? Fire him. Publicly put out public statements. Get the other actors in the show to put out public statements as well. We are going to humiliate this guy. Hey, listen, he did it himself. He wrote the stupid tweets. It is what it is. But again, to me, it's the hypocrisy of it. On one hand, perfectly cool. We don't have to say a thing. On the other hand, straight up fire his ass and make big public statements about it. That's the part that bothers me. Again, I would have been cool if they fired both of them. I would have been cool if they didn't fire either of them and said, hey, you were just going to address this. I would have been cool with either way. But the fact that they handled one situation so radically different from they handled another, to me, it's big hypocrisy. It's big hypocrisy. Adding to the hypocrisy that 5 minutes after Disney fired James Gunn, something I don't think they ever should have done, but 5 minutes after they fired James Gunn for writing really stupid tweets in the past, Warner Brothers hired him up immediately. So wait a minute, are you saying, because even if you're saying that writing tweets years ago is way worse than choking a woman and taking her to the ground, which it's not, but even if you're saying that's the case, didn't you just get another guy who got busted for writing really stupid things in the past? And James Gunn will be the first guy to tell you he's embarrassed by what he wrote in the past. He hates that he wrote that stuff 8-10 years ago. He hates it, but he owned up to it. And Disney fired. I don't think Disney should have fired him, but Disney fired him for it. And what did you, Warner Brothers, do? Boom, right away. Let's hire James Gunn to direct Suicide Squad. And I'm glad they did. I am. But where's the consistency? And that I just don't get. That's the part that I find troublesome. But Warner Brothers wants to pretend that it never happened, and they want to hope that everybody forgets about it. And the reality is they're not wrong. Everybody will just forget about it. They will. That's celebrity, folks. If you're famous and people like what you do, we'll all forget about it. And we'll all just let it go. And it is what it is. I mean, look, I'm addressing it now, Ryan, because you bring it up. So I'll address it. But I'm not making it topics of my, I'm just not making Ezra Miller topics the topic, at least this specific thing about, him choking a woman. I'm not going to make that a topic of my show anymore. I mean, I've said everything I've had to say about it. If you want to ask about it, I will address it again in respect to you sending in the question. But yep, that is exactly Warner Brothers' philosophy. That is clearly their strategy. So it is what it is. There's not much else to say about it anymore. Anyway, thanks for writing the question, Ryan. All right, next up, Bucky Rocks writes, been with Supernatural since 2005. I don't like how silly they have done Hell and demons. Hate that they killed the original Death. Maybe they have gone too far trying to kill God. What are your gripes? I actually love almost everything they've done. The only thing, like I said, the only episode of Supernatural that I ever disliked was last year's season finale, when all of a sudden Chuck was the villain. Like, I get it. They had just made the decision that the following season would be the last one. So like, okay, how do we go out and bang? Well, who's going to be our bad guy? Can't get any bigger than God. But they totally contradicted and retconned almost everything about Chuck and Chuck's relationship with the guys and the nature of Chuck. And all of a sudden, he's this vile villain? That to me was so inconsistent with the rest of the show that it really didn't sit well with me. And I hated the episode. It's the first time in 14 seasons that I hated an episode of Supernatural. So I don't know. We'll see how they'll be able to go once they finish out this final season. Obviously, it's been delayed because of COVID and everything. So it's going to be interesting. I haven't minded this last season. I haven't minded the final season so far. But we'll see the way they wrap things up as they move forward. All right. Corey J. Harper writes, I started watching Kim's Convenience based on your recommendation. I got to say, it's probably one of the best things on Netflix. Thanks and keep bringing on the filthy. Guys, listen, if you have not seen Kim's Convenience, let me see if I can grab an image here that I can bring up. If you guys have not seen Kim's Convenience, I cannot recommend it highly enough. And if for no other reason, the guy who plays the brother and the son, he's Mr. Kim's son, is now our new Shang-Chi in the MCU. The character's name is Jung. He's on the far left there. Really, the star of the show is the guy in the middle. It's Mr. Kim, the dad of Kim's Convenience. He runs a convenience store in Toronto. This Korean family living in Toronto. Guys, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Canadian homer. This is, honestly, this is approaching Parks and Rec and The Office levels for me. I'm not saying it is definitively on the same level as Parks and Rec and The Office, but it's approaching Parks and Rec and The Office level for me. Ann and I have been binging this thing. We've only got a couple of episodes left to finish season 4, and that's as far as they've gotten so far. I love this show, and I cannot believe, as a Canadian, that I have never watched it until about a month ago. This show is all sorts of fantastic. And please follow Corey's example and check out Kim's Convenience, if for no other reason, if you just want to get more well-versed in our new Shang-Chi for the MCU. But this show is dynamite. And this guy, Mr. Kim, or Appa, as they call him in the show, is one of my top 5 favorite characters in all of television right now. I love Appa. I love Uma. I love Jung. I love Janet. I love them all. It's just a great, great show and a great, great cast. I do recommend you guys check it out when you get the chance. All right, next up, Nick C. writes, "Hey, John and crew. With the tragic passing of the great Chadwick Boseman, I'm left wondering who will have the greatest lasting legacy in the MCU. With only one full movie, has he reached the levels or even surpassed Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr.? Listen, I'm just going to be real here, okay? I know there's the emotional part of, we obviously just lost the great Chadwick Boseman. So there's an emotional answer to this, but if I'm going to be try to be purely objective, no. He wasn't given he didn't have the opportunity to get to that level. Had he not passed and was able to make a few more movies, I very much believe he would have gotten to the level of Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. in terms of their overall importance to the MCU and their overall legacy. But if we're going to take the current, in the moment, emotional aspect out of it, the reality is he never got the opportunity to get to that level. He was great in Civil War. He was great in Black Panther. Small role in Infinity War. Tiny appearance in Endgame. But, Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans got to have, first of all, each of them had 3 of their own title movies. Captain America First Avenger, Captain America Winter Soldier, Captain America Civil War. We had 3 titled Iron Man movies. Then both of them big parts, if not the most key parts, in 4 Avengers movies. I mean, they just had the opportunity to establish the legacy of them and their characters in the MCU. Unfortunately, Chadwick Boseman was well on the way to doing that, and he was on that path. He was on that road to joining that level of Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. there, but he just never got the opportunity to get there. And again, the emotional thing right now would be to say, yes, he absolutely did, but really being objective, he just didn't get the chance. He would have. I think he would have, but he didn't get the chance, unfortunately. So I would right now, Nick, say no, even though that sounds like the insensitive thing to say, but it is what it is nonetheless. All right. Alpha O writes, I am a black MCU sidekick who used to be in the Air Force. Who am I? Rhodey, Falcon, Maria Rambo? Answer, all of them. All 3. Also, regarding Boseman's passing, I side with retiring his character from this iteration of the MCU. Not forever, however. I think there is a nuance. I mean, that's another good argument to make, right? Because when people say, when people who take my side on things say, hey, George Reeve passed away, but we still had another Superman, or Christopher Reeve passed away and we still have another Superman, that's true. Or, hey, we had Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man and we were able to have somebody else as Spider-Man. That's true. But the retort to that argument is that all the different Superman movies and the different Spider-Man movies were different iterations of Spider-Man. It wasn't the same continuous story. This is a brand new Spider-Man, brand new different Spider-Man. So that's why when I make the argument, I more go to like the Dumbledore example, which was continued on in the same continuity and is the same character. That's why I more lean towards things like that, because I agree. You take out like the Superman argument and the Spider-Man argument because they're brand new iterations. They're brand new iterations. And I think there are some people who don't like the idea of continuing on T'Challa right now, but maybe would feel okay about it if like the MCU wrapped up and then in 3 years they restarted and rebooted a brand new MCU with a brand new T'Challa. I think there would be more people who'd be okay with that. Again, I still personally feel the character of T'Challa is way too important, both to the movies and to our culture, to not carry on Chadwick Boseman's legacy. I just think it would be a mistake. But that's me. But you raise a very, very good point, Alpha O. And you're right. Black sidekick who used to be in the Air Force. Rhodey, Falcon, Maria Rambo. Boom. Ace, ace, ace. Absolutely. Good point, Alpha. All right. Andres Moran writes, hey, John and crew. Theaters have opened in some parts of Mexico, so I can proclaim I'm finally going back to the theaters. I'm watching Escape from Pretoria, starring Daniel Radcliffe. I haven't seen that one myself, to be honest with you. Have you heard of this movie? And if so, what are your thoughts? If it's the movie I'm thinking of, then yes, but I have not seen it, so I can't comment on it. But that's great that not only have a lot of places in the world had classic movies you can go watch, you got movies you can go watch, new movies you can go watch. So I think that's great, man. So I hope you have a good time. Just please make sure you stay safe. Stay safe and doing what you do. All right, next up. Also, Andres Moran writes, hey, John and crew. Again, hope you're doing well. I am. Over or under 13% that we could see Michael B. Jordan return as Killmonger and take the throne, since we just saw him fall to his death, but didn't really see him die. Thanks, and may the filthy never die. Oh, no, we did see him die. We did see him die. But that's not the important thing. It's the Marvel Cinematic Fake Death universe. Just because we saw him die, that doesn't mean anything. But earlier in the show, Andres, I mean, I feel very, very strongly about this. Killmonger was an awesome character in Black Panther, played brilliantly by Michael B. Jordan, who maybe should have gotten an Academy Award nomination for the performance. That said, he is in no way, shape, or form ever coming back to either take up the mantle of Black Panther or take up the throne. It would be so inconsistent. He is a traitor to Wakanda. He is a vile, evil murderer. He had a couple of good points in his philosophy. That doesn't make him an okay guy. And yeah, he got dealt a bad hand. But make no mistake, he caused the death of a lot of Wakandans. He talked about going around the world and killing the children of the, what's the word? Colonizers, killing the children of the colonizers. He murdered, as somebody pointed out, his own girlfriend just so he can get a clean shot at Claw. He murdered a lot. He is straight up evil, and he is a traitor to Wakanda, and that's it. Period. Done. End of sentence. That's not to say we can't see Killmonger back, but if he comes back, he's coming back as Killmonger. He's coming back as a villain, which is what he is. So I'm going to go well under 13%. I'm going to go well under 13%. Okay, next up, Nick C. writes, hey, John, to follow up from my recent question in a comment, While I know you only care about the quality of an actor portraying a role, how great would it be if Feige got Donald Glover to continue on the legacy of T'Challa? Thanks. I don't think there's anything great about that at all. Look, if they announced Donald Glover was going to be Black Panther, Donald Glover's a good actor. So, okay, I'm down with that, but no more so than I would be than John David Washington or any other tons of great actors that are out there to come and say. So honestly, no, I wouldn't feel any. I mean, look, whoever they announce, if they do decide to carry on with T'Challa, which I think they should, whenever they announce 6 months from now, a year from now, who's going to come on, the actor that they're going to bring in to carry on that legacy for Chadwick Boseman, as long as it's a good actor, I'm going to go great. But I see no reason why it should be Donald Glover over anybody else. But if it is Donald Glover, great. He's a good actor. I'm all for it. But yeah, I don't think there's anything particularly great about it being any one particular actor, to be honest with you. Just bring in somebody who can carry on that legacy that Chadwick Boseman left. That's all I'm asking for. And if he's the guy to do it, great. And if it's somebody else, great. All right, Alan writes, Hey, John and Scott, and of course, Scott's not with us here anymore. When will we get to see Mance versus Roka 3 on the Schmodown? Also, got my tickets to see Tenet this Friday and Saturday. Can't wait, and will still go even if it is slightly crowded. Is Mance on Team Godzilla? Again, I think Mance is a Team Kong guy. I think Scott's a Team Kong guy. But yeah, Mance versus Roka was always one of the great things. I mean, Scott's such a great showman. He's such a great showman. So I don't know. I will have to ask him that the next time I see him. I will ask him that the next time I see him, Alan. All right, next up, Tim Platt writes, I know Scott will probably be gone by the time you read this, but it's so awesome seeing two of the biggest influencers on my movie fandom together at the same time. Well, thanks a lot. No, I adore Scott, and Scott and I, we will always stop and chat. And I've liked Scott and been an admirer of Scott's for a long time. I just love the way he approaches his own fandom, man. I mean, he's one of the great true film critics in the world, but he also approaches it with the heart of a fan. And that's one of the things he's got. I don't know if you guys can tell by watching him on screen, but it's nothing like in real person. He just has so much enthusiasm and charisma. I love Scott. I really do. I love Scott. All right. Thanks for that, Tim. Next up, episode 7 was cool, writes, with both Daisy and John Boyega both coming out within the last few weeks to shit on the Star Wars sequels, Daisy saying she has gotten no role since then. Well, she wasn't criticizing the Star Wars sequels. Let's be clear about that. And by the way, she didn't say she didn't get any roles. She said there was a period of time where she was worried because there were no offers coming in, but then there were. So just go back and read the full article. She specifies that there was a period of time that she wasn't, and then she was. So just be clear. Since then, and John saying they treated non-white characters horribly. John, I asked you, did anyone actually enjoy the sequels? I did, except for Rise of Skywalker. I thought that was terrible. The Force Awakens I thought was fantastic and wonderful. And John Boyega really liked The Force Awakens because it was more about him. And his character at that point, which he says is what his concern was for the character. But yeah, I mean, The Force Awakens is fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. And still to this day holds the domestic box office record. If I'm not mistaken, let me just go and double check this. I could be wrong, but I think if I'm not mistaken, and I might be, let me go double check this. Like Avengers, Endgame, if I'm not mistaken, is not the all-time box office record holder for domestic. I think it might still be Star Wars: The Force Awakens, if I'm not mistaken. So let me just check here. So Endgame made $885 million domestically. So Endgame made $885 million domestically. Where is... Let me try. Maybe, was it 2015? I think Star Wars: The Force Awakens made over $1 billion. No, it made $936 million. So yeah, $936 million. So it actually is still king of that. I just thought it was fantastic. I thought Last Jedi was good, but as I discussed earlier, there was a number of issues I had with it. And then I just thought The Rise of Skywalker came off the rails, unfortunately. I just didn't like The Rise of Skywalker, but a lot of people did. Anyway, let's see here. German beer is the best, writes. John, here is what happened before Nolan wrote Tenet. Oh, you think you'll understand Interstellar and Inception? Oh, you think you understand Interstellar and Inception? Well, hold my beer. By the way, why didn't Rob go to Vegas with you? Your team is the best, and I look forward to listening to you for decades. Well, thank you so much. Some came up, and Rob just couldn't go. I mean, that's just the bottom line. He just could not go, unfortunately. So, I mean, I'm not going to tell about what his personal reasons, what came up and why he couldn't go, but that's him. But I could just tell you he just couldn't go. So there's that. And again, I have not seen Tenet yet myself, so I cannot speak to that. about how confusing is it, whatever. I'm assuming you probably did, but I have not. So anyway, there's that. Hey, listen, guys, it is now, we've been going for almost 2.5 hours here. My throat is starting to hurt. So I'm going to have to call it a day. I said we would keep going, not worry about time, but we've hit another limit here. My throat, you can probably hear it. My throat's starting to get sore. So I'm going to call it quits at 2.5 hours here myself. But do not worry. For everybody from Ben Rayner, Andrew Nathan, and on, don't worry. We will start off tomorrow's live questions part of the show with your questions, and we'll get through those. There's only a handful left, but I don't want to push it too much, or else I'm not going to be able to do a show tomorrow. So we're going to call it quits at that point, guys. Guys, listen. Thank you so much for being here and making this show a part of your day. Thanks to Scott Mance for gracing us with his presence here. Always good to see him, have him around. Special thank you to all of you guys who sent in the live questions. Number one, because you supported this channel while you did it. But number two, you also gave us great fun things to talk about. And all of us here, thank you guys so much for that. So that'll do it for me for now, guys. Remember, do the 4 main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please be aware of taking care of the people around you. That'll do it for me, guys. My name is John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.